The story opens on a sunlit, magnificent cathedral, setting the scene for a grand and joyous event. A radiant bride with blonde hair and blue eyes smiles gently, holding a bouquet of white flowers. Her groom is revealed to be Calypso de Ernst, the silver-haired Grand Duke of the House of Ernst. A kind, older man with blonde hair smiles warmly at the bride as he stands beside her. The blonde bride and the silver-haired groom, Calypso, stand together at the altar to be wed. Their love was described as calm and steady, as they are shown later in a garden, expecting a child. Tears of joy stream down her face as she cradles her newborn white-haired baby, Catherine. Years pass, and she sips tea while watching her daughter, Catherine, being tended to by her father, Calypso. On a sunny day in a field, the mother calls out for her daughter, Catherine, who is running ahead. Catherine is found alone among flowers, kneeling on the ground and crying desperately for her mother. Inside a grand hall, Calypso appears distressed, while the blonde woman gasps and a woman with orange hair looks on. Catherine weeps in bed, fearing she will no longer be able to see the beautiful flowers or birds. A hand gently touches the crying girl's face as an unseen person laments for the poor baby. The blonde mother, crying, desperately asks the orange-haired woman if there is anything that can be done. The orange-haired woman turns away, her expression startled by the desperate plea. She lowers her head, hesitating with a troubled look before giving an answer. Absolute horror fills the mother's eyes as the terrible reality of the situation sinks in. Calypso rushes forward in a panic, crying out the name Diana. The blonde woman, Diana, weakly looks up and whispers, "Honey," to her husband. With a peaceful smile, Diana professes that she loves her family more than her own life. Sometime later, Diana stands in a grand hall, her eyes covered by a white blindfold. Her childhood friend and physician, Alicia, embraces her, providing tender care. Believing that everything was getting better, Diana is seen walking alone down a long hallway. As she stands in the dark, she hears a voice whisper, "I love you." Overcome with emotion, the blindfolded Diana whispers back, "I love you too." However, she discovers Calypso passionately embracing Alicia in a brightly lit ballroom. Stunned, Diana's thoughts race as she desperately hopes what she overheard was a lie. Her world shatters, torn apart by the sight of their betrayal. A bitter giggle escapes her as she stumbles backward, the scene of betrayal replaying in her mind. Calypso and Alicia smirk cruelly as Alicia suppresses a laugh at Diana's expense. The full, horrifying weight of their deception crashes down upon the blindfolded Diana. Lying in Calypso's arms, Alicia smugly thinks to herself what a stupid woman Diana was for missing the hints. In her room, Diana collapses, her hands gripping the sheets in utter anguish. Tears stream down her face as she whispers her husband's name in disbelief and heartbreak. Calypso's expression is hard and unforgiving as he looks on. He coldly orders his guards to escort the crying Grand Duchess away as they drag her from the room. Diana is thrown into a dusty, dilapidated room and told, "Farewell, former Grand Duchess." She is left to sit alone in the darkness, completely abandoned and broken. An unknown amount of time passes as she remains imprisoned in the cobweb-filled shack. She wonders about the identity of the person who leaves her scraps of dried-up bread to eat. Consumed by despair, her only thoughts are of her daughter, hoping Catherine isn't crying for her. Overwhelmed by grief for her lost life and her child, she breaks down and sobs. The sound of approaching footsteps breaks the silence of her lonely imprisonment. A familiar voice makes her look up in shock to see her daughter Catherine standing at the door. Catherine looks terrified, cowering behind a beautiful woman in a dark dress. The woman is Alicia, who cruelly taunts Diana, surprised she hasn't starved to death yet. A new wave of pure horror and rage washes over Diana as she screams Alicia's name. Fueled by betrayal, Diana lunges toward Alicia in a desperate fury. Alicia simply turns and calmly closes the heavy wooden door. The sound of the lock clicking into place echoes through the darkness, sealing Diana's fate. Alicia and a young blonde girl loom over the fallen Diana, with Alicia cruelly calling her foolish. In utter shock and denial, Diana's mind refuses to accept the horrifying revelation. The young blonde girl next to Alicia smugly tells her to stop it already. The girl internally reveals her cruel deception. She only pretended to be blind, knowing Diana was foolish enough to give up her own eyes for her. As Diana frantically questions Catherine's identity, Alicia smiles cruelly and mocks her. "Oh, your daughter?" Alicia watches with satisfaction as a man carries a large sack over his shoulder into the darkness. The man throws the sack down, revealing a disheveled and terrified young blonde girl, stunning Diana. Alicia coldly demands to know who defied her orders as the new master and brought Diana food. Diana's hands desperately clutch the collar of the girl who is just thrown before her. Holding the girl close, Diana recalls Alicia's words, realizing that this maid is of noble blood. The full, devastating truth crashes down on Diana as she begins to weep. The ultimate betrayal is confirmed. This girl is her real daughter, switched at birth. Ha! A raw scream of pure agony rips from Diana's throat. Ugh. From a balcony, Alicia grants the mercy of dying together and orders poison to be scattered on them. Choking on the poison, Diana desperately cries out for her daughter. Cradling her dying child, a heartbroken Diana sobs apologies for failing to protect her. Diana gasps and chokes, her body finally succumbing to the agonizing poison. With one final, tear-filled gaze, Diana's life slips away. Diana and her daughter lie lifeless on the dusty floor in a tragic final embrace. Their still faces, streaked with tears, are a silent testament to their sorrowful end. Ugh! Diana suddenly jolts upright with a gasp, finding herself in a luxurious, sunlit bed. Panting and drenched in a cold sweat, she looks around, terrified and disoriented. Staring forward in disbelief, she is overwhelmed with confusion at her impossible situation. Her hands tremble as she clutches her nightgown, trying to ground herself in this new reality. She notices a faint glow and questions in disbelief if she is actually seeing light. Gripping the bed sheets, she trembles, completely bewildered by what is happening to her. Her gaze sweeps across an opulent and unfamiliar room, bathed in bright, warm light. A maid with dark hair pulls open the curtains, flooding the grand bedroom with sunlight. The maid turns and looks surprised to find Diana already awake and watching her. When the maid states the date, Diana realizes with a shock that she's returned to the day she lost her sight. As the memory of her murder returns, she wonders if she's come back to the past with her vision intact. A surge of determination fills her as she realizes this is her chance to save her daughter. Diana confidently orders the maid to take her to the maid's quarters, recalling Alicia's past instructions to keep a close watch on her. The maid watches her with a suspicious gaze, wondering what scheme Diana is plotting now. The scene transitions to a sunny courtyard, where several maids are hanging laundry. Diana, now dressed and using a cane, formally addresses the assembled maids. She vividly remembers Alicia's chilling confession that her real daughter was raised as a maid in the estate. The memory of the rough, calloused hands that secretly gave her bread in prison flashes through her mind. With a gentle but determined expression, Diana begins to explain why she has summoned them. When she asks for their help, the maids whisper that she is saying exactly what Alicia had warned them about. Diana's expression stiffens as a sudden, chilling realization hits her. She sees only unfamiliar faces, remembering with a jolt that all her loyal maids were replaced just before her blindness. The maids' cruel whispers fill the air as they mock her, leaving Diana to stand alone in silence. She recalls Calypso's cold explanation that he had reassigned her entire personal staff. In her memory, Alicia pretends to comfort her, promising to introduce her to more reliable workers. Remembering how she'd gratefully hugged Alicia, she now sees it was all part of a calculated plan. Back in the present, the head maid dismissively says she will be on her way. The maid hesitates, deciding internally that there is nothing to report and no reason to tell Alicia. The scene shifts to the grand exterior of the estate, as a figure in a blue dress walks purposefully. Standing at the foot of the grand staircase, Diana looks up and is startled to see Catherine standing at the top. She utters the name Catherine in disbelief, staring at the silver-haired girl before her. Catherine stands impassively at the top of the stairs, looking down at Diana, who is at the bottom. As Catherine reaches for her, Diana recoils, wondering if she is testing to see if she's truly blind. Suddenly, Catherine's foot juts out, tripping Diana on the stairs. Ah! With a cry of surprise, Diana loses her footing and begins to fall backward. She tumbles down the grand staircase as an unseen person screams her title, Your Grace. From the top of the stairs, Catherine watches with a cruel, satisfied smirk. The head maid rushes to Diana's side, feigning concern and asking if she missed a step. Lying on the floor, Diana's thoughts drift back to the events that led her here. She recalls her painful reality, a cheating husband, a treacherous friend, and a fake daughter who stole everything. On the cold floor, she realizes she must accept this harsh new reality as quickly as possible. She knows her enemies could try to kill her again at any moment. Gripping her hands, she steels herself for the impossible situation she faces. The scene shifts, showing a young blonde woman in a simple blue dress walking away into the light. Back in the present, Diana flinches as a door opens, nervously telling the visitors to come in. Her two betrayers, Calypso and Alicia, walk in together as she thinks their names with dread. Calypso coldly asks how she is feeling, while Alicia flashes a mocking smile beside him. Diana claims to be fine aside from her blindness, internally fuming at their brazen audacity. Surrounded by a dark aura, Alicia smirks, enjoying Diana's suffering. Calypso pulls Alicia close, telling her it's a relief to hear that Diana is otherwise well. He embraces Alicia intimately, whispering in her ear as Diana watches from afar, utterly shocked. As tears fall from her eyes, she internally screams, "Lies!" at Calypso's empty offer of help. Gripping her cane, her hand trembles with rage as she silently calls them filthy hypocrites. Feigning exhaustion, Diana cuts their display short and asks them to leave her alone. Calypso glances back with a triumphant, knowing smirk as he holds Alicia. Walking away, Calypso dismisses Alicia's impatience, telling her she's just jealous, but enjoyed their display. Urgh. Overwhelmed, Diana stumbles onto a balcony, clutching her chest in agony. Weeping against the railing under a starry sky, she makes a silent, broken vow. Resolved, she enters a study, pulls a book from a shelf, and begins to write at a desk. With focused determination, she pens a letter by candlelight, a new plan taking shape. A flashback shows a younger, hopeful Diana in a white dress, praying peacefully. The narration reveals she was born to the wealthy Marquisate of Paris and lived a life of love. Her past is shown through scenes of her volunteering at orphanages and leading charity events. Believing people were more important than wealth or fame, she dedicated herself to others. Because of her kindness and generosity, she was beloved by everyone she met. She was revered as the saint of House Paresha, a figure blessed by the heavens. Her saintly reputation even reached the merit-based society of the Magic Tower. The grand and imposing Magic Tower is shown in all its splendor. Inside, a man with long red hair hears a knock while reading and bids the visitor to enter. A young man in clerical robes enters, announcing that a letter has arrived for Sir Ruari. The red-haired man, Sir Ruari, learns the letter is from Marquis Pareshe, who is looking for a teacher. His subordinate explains the Marquis wants a magic teacher for his daughter, the famous saint, and suggests sending an ordinary mage. No, Ruari declares, his hand glowing with power as he rejects the simple solution. With a confident smile, the powerful mage stands and announces that he will go personally. What? The subordinate is utterly stunned by his superior's unexpected decision. He shouts in disbelief, shocked that the great Sir Ruari would go himself. Back in her youth, Diana, now wearing glasses, holds a vial and wonders who her father will send as her teacher. She recalls having to give up her study of magic because of her marriage. But considering the future, she realizes the importance of resuming her studies. Opening her door, she calls out into the hall as two maids gossip in the distance. A yawning maid with brown hair tiredly agrees to a command from the blonde, cane-holding Grand Duchess. Diana, her eyes obscured by a translucent covering, curtly orders the startled maid to bring Alicia and Catherine for tea immediately. The maid nervously wonders if this commanding woman is really the same person from yesterday, haunted by an image of a confident Diana. Diana presses the silent maid with cold authority, questioning if she dares to defy her command. The terrified maid hastily agrees and rushes off to fulfill the order, while Diana watches with a subtle smile. A pristine tea service is presented, ready for the Grand Duchess to enjoy. At an outdoor table, Diana tells Alicia that while she can no longer see, she should be getting used to such things by now. Diana thanks Alicia for her presence, calling her by the familiar name, Ellie. A formal introduction identifies the orange-haired woman as Alicia of the Blair Viscounty. Diana fondly recalls her past, remembering a young Alicia as her most cherished childhood friend. In a memory, the two young ladies hold hands, with Diana narrating that they were both overjoyed. The memory sours as Diana thinks they were foolishly happy, now sitting alone at the table under a vast sky. The arrival of a voice calling "Mother" breaks Diana's reverie, her expression shifting with a spark of recognition. As Catherine approaches, Diana internally seethes, accusing Alicia of turning her own daughter into a maid, while elevating Alicia's child to nobility. With a startlingly bright and manic smile, Diana cheerfully calls out Catherine's name. Suddenly, a hand knocks over the teapot, sending a splash of hot tea flying across the table with a crash. Alicia screams in pain as the scalding liquid hits her, crying out that it's hot. Catherine gasps in shock at the scene, her hand covering her mouth as nearby maids look on. Catherine rushes to her mother's side, shouting that the doctor is hurt, as Diana feigns surprise and apologizes to Allie. Diana touches her face and blames the incident on her own blindness, claiming she is still not used to it. Announcing she needs to treat her wound, Alicia stands to leave, and Diana calmly permits her to go. After Alicia's departure, a tense silence falls over the patio where Diana and Catherine remain seated. Diana surprises Catherine by asking her to assist with her morning routine, prompting Catherine to question why she should do a maid's job. Complimenting her canary-like voice, Diana requests that Catherine read to her every morning, sweetly asking if she can manage it. With a cruel smile, Diana touches her covered eyes and chillingly remarks that Catherine's mother even gave her eyes to her. Catherine turns away in silent fury, internally cursing the bothersome request. Despite her anger, Catherine reluctantly accepts the new duty, agreeing to her mother's wish. A satisfied Diana smiles, pleased that Catherine is willing to be of help. The scene transitions to a sun-dappled, peaceful forest. In another room, Calypso comforts Alicia, who rests against him as he remarks that her painful burn only heals because of Diana. Calypso offers to look at the injury, but Alicia playfully deflects by cooing his name. As Calypso's hand rests on her leg, Alicia worries about Diana finding them, but he confidently assures her that Diana won't come to his office. At that exact moment, Diana's voice cuts through the air, calling, "Darling," leaving the pair frozen in shock. A stunned Calypso stammers Diana's name, questioning her unexpected presence as Alicia looks on in horror. Calypso panics internally, recalling that Diana never visits his office, always claiming she doesn't want to disturb him. He anxiously wonders if her sudden appearance means she has discovered their affair. The sound of Diana's sobs and whimpers fills the air. In a flashback, a crying Diana complains to Calypso that the maids whisper about her, calling her the blind Grand Duchess. Overwhelmed with tears, she declares that she can't take the disrespect anymore. Diana announces her plan to fire all the maids, shocking Calypso and causing Alicia to silently fume over the loss of her bribed spies. Alicia quickly grabs Diana's arm in a futile attempt to stop her. Frustrated, Alicia stands up and exclaims her hatred for the maids, deciding it's not worth the trouble. Alicia storms out of the grand room, leaving Diana alone with Calypso. With Alicia gone, Diana turns to her husband and asks him to call back the maids she originally brought with her upon their marriage. Calypso questions the request, reminding her that she sent them away for being untrustworthy, but a flustered Diana pretends to have forgotten. As he looks at Diana's tear-streaked face, Calypso's expression darkens, noting her strong resemblance to Marcus Paresh. Calypso recalls his grandfather's cynical reasoning. He chose Diana only for her family's immense power, noting how useful the dim-witted girl proved to be. The memory continues, revealing that the Marquis's massive financial support saved the duchy from bankruptcy, securing a new business venture for a pleased younger Calypso. The younger Calypso's hopeful expression fades into a grim and serious one. In the past, somber Calypso sits in a formal meeting, deep in discussion. A flashback shows a silver-haired man and a blonde man reacting with shocked denial. In a dark memory, the silver-haired man seethes, revealing he wanted influence, not an old man's meddling. A weary Marquis of Pareshte worries about news reaching the wrong ears as Diana stands behind him. Diana, her eye bandaged, quietly wonders if simply summoning Shane and Milan will be sufficient for her plans. She throws her arms around the Marquess in a hug, thanking him warmly. The Marquess embraces her, thinking, "Good," as she looks up at him with a determined expression. Later that night, an owl watches from a branch as Diana sits alone in a grand room, reading a book. A hand closes a book with a snap, signaling the end of the lesson. Left alone in her room, Diana notes with disappointment that no one has come to check on her. She bitterly muses that they don't care if she's starving, but quickly dismisses the thought. With cold resolve, she decides she will dismiss all the maids tomorrow. A painful memory surfaces of her past life, where she lay weak and starving for days on end. Rising from her chair, Diana walks through the silent, moonlit room. She steps out onto the balcony, as a sudden gust of wind blows past her. Startled by the swirling wind, she looks around in confusion. A magical gust of wind suddenly envelops her, causing her to cry out in surprise. Thrown off balance, the strap on her shoe snaps as she exclaims in alarm. Amidst a swirl of cosmic energy, a gloved hand appears, and a voice expresses surprise. The red-haired man, Ruairi, now holds Diana, remarking that his first disciple is a beautiful lady. As he holds her against a starry background, he greets her as sister. Standing on the balcony, the two are surrounded by a lingering magical glow. A bewildered Diana touches a new mark on her neck and asks the stranger who he is. Surrounded by magical flowers, Ruairi introduces himself as a candidate for the next Mage Tower Master, sent by her father. As Diana realizes his identity, he confirms with a smile that he is her new teacher. Diana internally scoffs at the revelation, thinking her father is completely hopeless. Ruairi takes her hand, asking why she is wearing a particular anklet. Under the moonlight, Diana falsely claims she lost her sight from an injury, and he questions if that's true. Panicked, Diana wonders if mages can see through lies. Ruairi laughs it off, saying he was just kidding and calls her an unusual person. Blushing slightly, Diana feels a wave of relief that her deception went unnoticed. Held by Ruairi, Diana stammers, "M-Master?" But he tells her to speak casually. He formally introduces himself as Ruairi de Constantine. Diana agrees to call him Ruairi, as he gently adjusts the bandage over her eyes. Ruairi proposes weekly lessons at noon, offering to come to her to accommodate her schedule. He explains that he doesn't walk well and asks her not to send anyone to greet him. Looking down at her, he gently insists they do whatever is most comfortable for her. Diana notes that the rumors about mages being informal are true, and Ruairi asks if she dislikes it, with a pleased smile. Diana admits she finds his casual demeanor relaxing and nice. Ruairi returns her smile, saying he will look forward to their lessons. Suddenly, Diana cries out in pain, clutching her head as she seems to recall someone calling for their sister. A fragmented vision shows Ruairi at a desk, vowing to start everything over from the beginning. Back in the present, a stunned Diana wonders about the voice she just heard. In another room, a gray-haired maid covers her mouth in shock, finding the news unbelievable. The head maid, Shane, trembles as she struggles to comprehend what has just happened. Diana, sitting calmly on her bed, tells her two maids that she knows it's hard to believe. She assures them that everything she told them is true, then summons Milan and Shane by name. The maids exchange a worried glance, and Shane asks what Her Highness plans to do now. Diana looks up, her eyes filled with newfound determination and a hint of cold fury. She vows to get her revenge on the beasts, Calypso, Alicia, and Catherine, no matter what it takes. Shane turns to the blonde maid beside her, confirming her name is Milan. Milan rushes to Diana's side, calling her Your Highness, and expressing sympathy for the burden she has carried alone. With tears in her eyes, Milan pledges her lifelong service and begs to be allowed to help. Kneeling beside Shane, Milan promises they will obey any command, prompting Diana to softly say their names. Touched by their loyalty, Diana gives them a warm, appreciative smile. Now ready to act, Diana begins to issue her first order to the two devoted maids. A new group of maids is formally welcomed to their positions at the Grand Duke's residence. Two of the new maids nervously hold small, dark-colored pouches in their hands. Diana, now wearing a bandage over her eye and flanked by Milan and Shane, presents a pouch to the assembled staff. Murmurs of shock spread through the maids as they discover pouches full of jewels, one exclaiming it's worth 3 years' wages. As mistress of the house, Diana grasps a glowing pouch and makes a solemn promise to her new staff. She opens her hand to reveal a cascade of brilliant jewels, vowing to cherish her new maids more than anyone. Diana smiles kindly, telling them she will value them just like the precious jewels in the pouches. Her tone suddenly shifts to a stern "however" as two maids look up with apprehension. In a shocking turn, Diana lets the valuable gems fall from her hand, scattering them across the floor. Crack! She brings her heel down with force, shattering the precious jewels into fragments. Standing over the ruined gems with a menacing shadow cast over her face, Diana warns them this treatment is conditional on them not overstepping their bounds. With a commanding gaze, she forbids them from betraying her, reminding them that their one true master is Diana L. Ernst. Diana stands resolute before her new staff, who bow their heads in submission under her authority. A faint, confident smile plays on Diana's lips, signaling her new reign has begun. Leaning on a cane, Diana walks through the courtyard with her loyal maids, leaving the dismissed staff behind. A voice cries out in panic, "Your Grace, the Grand Duchess!" As Diana turns her head slightly. The dismissed maids desperately chase after her, pleading to know why they are being abandoned and what they did wrong. One of the former maids grabs Diana's gown, weeping and begging to be taken back. Kya! With a swift move, Belinda draws a sword and shoves the maid away, commanding her to step aside. Belinda angrily questions how the maid dared to lay a hand on her mistress, while Diana watches with a cold, unforgiving expression. In a flashback, Diana instructs Shane to dismiss all current maids, hire new staff, and find her a knight. Puzzled, Shane repeats the request for a knight and suggests asking the Marquis's estate. Diana specifies she needs someone not officially registered as a knight, whom she intends to disguise as a maid. This disguised knight, revealed to be the light blue-haired Belinda, will be entrusted with a crucial task. Returning to the present, Diana calmly tells Belinda that she has done enough. Diana stands imperiously before the dismissed maids, who cower on the ground as Belinda stands guard. Internally, Diana scoffs at their pleas, remembering how they betrayed her for Alicia's money. With cold finality, she vows they will never set foot in the residence again, as the disgraced maids weep. From a distance, a figure in a dark green cloak watches as Diana and her entourage walk away. The observer, revealed to be Alicia, clicks her tongue in annoyance, calling the maids pathetic fools for their failure. Staring into the distance, Alicia curses as she feels the situation spiraling out of her control. The scene transitions to a grand view of the sunlit ducal mansion. Later, Shane holds up a letter of recommendation for Yulia and asks Diana why she spared the head maid. Diana explains that she suspects Yulia knows about Alicia's schemes and orders her to be watched closely. In her office, Diana asks Milan for a report on a task, and the maid responds with hesitation. Milan sadly reports there is still no news of Diana's biological daughter, leaving Diana to quietly absorb the disappointment. A cloaked figure reports that a search of the estate for a 15-year-old girl with rough hands yielded nothing, but the search is now expanding to the entire duchy. Diana instructs them to continue their work, and her maids cheerfully agree. Alone with her thoughts, Diana closes her eyes and wonders where Alicia could have hidden her daughter. A chilling memory surfaces of a younger Diana being blindfolded by a menacing Alicia. Her resolve hardening, Diana instructs Shane to summon Catherine. Elsewhere, Catherine throws a fit, screaming in disbelief that she is being summoned again. A maid informs Catherine that Diana wishes to read a book, but Catherine complains that she just did that this morning. Deciding she's done for the afternoon, Catherine storms out, muttering about that girl as a maid watches her leave. In a dark memory, a hand trembles while clutching a dress as a voice thinks that a blind person should live quietly, foreshadowing a threat against Diana once my mother becomes Grand Duchess. In a fit of rage, Catherine sweeps a tea set off the table. A porcelain cup shatters on the floor, its red contents splashing across the wood. She takes a purposeful step forward, her anger propelling her. Facing a grand bookshelf, Catherine shouts for someone to come out. A timid young maid with blonde hair peeks out, asking if she was called. Kekya! Catherine violently grabs the maid's hair and drags her into the open. The maid collapses onto the floor amid the mess of broken porcelain and spilled tea. Looming over her, Catherine coldly orders her to have the place spotless upon her return. Looking up with tear-filled eyes, the maid's name is revealed to be Isel. In a flashback, Diana, now wearing a formal dress and an eye patch, sips tea. Catherine arrives, and Diana coolly remarks that she is late. Apologizing insincerely, Catherine thinks that acting cute will get her out of trouble. She puts on a sweet smile, asking for forgiveness after claiming she fell asleep while reading. Diana sternly reminds her that punctuality is a virtue, causing Catherine to think resentfully about her mother's recent change in attitude. Diana orders her to be on time from now on, and Catherine reluctantly agrees. Diana presents Catherine with a huge stack of books, who is shocked by the volume. Explaining she can no longer read, Diana asks for help, much to Catherine's annoyance. Diana appeals to her vanity, saying she enjoys her voice, and Catherine reluctantly agrees. Thud! Diana's hand presses down on a book, sealing the deal. After some time has passed, Catherine complains that her throat hurts from reading. She declares she's done after an hour and Diana internally notes her daughter's lack of patience. Diana thinks with satisfaction that Catherine fell right into her trap. As punishment for her attitude, Diana cancels Catherine's upcoming visit with young Lord Sawyer. What? Catherine leaps to her feet, demanding to know what her mother means. Diana coldly states she cannot introduce a girl who breaks promises to the young lord. Devastated, Catherine whispers the young lord's title in despair. She recalls watching the handsome young lord, remembering how long she's waited for this day. In her memory, the young lord smiles, and she thinks of her desire to be alone with him. Crying, Catherine steels her resolve, thinking this is an opportunity she must seize. As Diana calls her name, Catherine looks up with tear-streaked determination. Diana dangles a reward, promising to arrange another meeting if Catherine behaves. Her eyes light up as she asks if it's true, and Diana confirms it, calling her a beloved daughter. Beaming, Catherine promises to never be late again and to always read for her. Diana smirks, thinking how easily Catherine is tamed by her own desires. Eagerly, Catherine begins reading aloud as Diana listens with a knowing look. The scene transitions to the grand, sunlit exterior of the Ernst estate. The ornate, golden gates of the ducal residence gleam in the morning light. A maid with long, light blue hair asks Diana if her magic lessons are starting today. The maid says she'll stand guard at the garden entrance, and Diana thanks her, calling her Belinda. Using her cane, Diana walks through the beautiful garden, deciding it's a suitable place for her lesson. She checks her pocket watch, noting that the lesson is about to begin. She recalls a memory of Sir Ruri promising to arrive on time, accommodating her schedule. Holding the watch, she wonders if he'll appear suddenly again, vowing not to be surprised. Tick! The hand of the ornate pocket watch moves, marking the hour. In a swirl of magical energy and flower petals, Sir Ruri materializes before a startled Diana. The red-haired mage smiles warmly and greets her casually. Hi, Nuna. His feet touch the ground, red magic swirling around his ankles as he lands gracefully. Diana greets Ruri by name, and he asks if she's been well, admitting he's been waiting for this day. As Diana nervously affirms, Ruri grins and asks if being his very first disciple isn't an honor. With a small, contented smile, Diana tells Ruri it is an honor. He suggests they begin the lesson amidst the beautiful garden scenery. Ruri offers to teach her any kind of magic she desires, from attack to defense, or even binding magic. Diana thinks for a moment, trying to recall the last time she ever used magic. As Diana makes her decision, Ruri reassures her, telling her to relax and take it one step at a time. He instructs her to begin by releasing her mana, and Diana agrees to try. Whoosh! Diana is amazed as flames dance from her fingertips, a power she did not expect. Ruri demonstrates his own fire magic, explaining that all mana has a specific attribute. He lists the 6 attributes: fire, water, ice, wind, lightning, and earth, stating a mage can only use their own. After revealing his attribute is fire, Ruri asks about hers, and Diana recalls that her attribute was ice. With the plan set, Ruri encourages her to give her own magic a try. Despite her efforts, nothing happens, and Diana grows frustrated that her magic will not work at all. Calling her name, Ruri gently takes her hand to guide her. He stands behind her, instructing her to open her hand the moment she feels the power gather. Diana's expression hardens as she resolves to focus all of her concentration. She focuses her will, gathering swirling blue energy at her fingertips. Suddenly, Calypso stops at the edge of the garden, observing them from a distance. Bam! A powerful wave of brilliant ice crystals erupts from Diana's outstretched hand. She stares in disbelief, awestruck by the beautiful ice magic she has just unleashed. I finally did it, she exclaims joyfully, as Ruri praises her for doing great. Their celebration is cut short as Calypso silently appears behind them. His expression is cold and stern as he takes in the scene before him. The scene focuses on Diana still holding hands with her magic teacher. Calypso coldly asks who is with her, and Diana introduces Ruri as her magic teacher. He looks skeptical, questioning her need for magic lessons. Diana explains that since she can no longer read books, she decided to learn magic. Calypso remains silent, his gaze fixed suspiciously on Ruri. The two men lock eyes in a tense, unspoken challenge. Internally, Diana scoffs at his attitude, thinking he has no right to be jealous. Her hand trembles with suppressed fury as she thinks of his affair with her friend. Turning her attention back to her teacher, she calmly calls Ruri's name. Diana introduces Calypso as her husband, and Ruri offers a cheerful greeting, which Calypso grudgingly returns. Calypso internally criticizes Ruri's lack of manners, while Ruri mockingly notes the intense stare. Just then, Catherine appears in the garden, calling out to her parents. She approaches the group, asking why they are all gathered together. Noticing her daughter's hoarse voice, Diana tells Catherine to come and greet their guest. Diana introduces Ruri, who offers a friendly gesture that makes Catherine stammer. Catherine looks up, slightly dazed by the sudden introduction. Ruri thoughtfully observes Catherine, remarking how strange it is that she doesn't resemble Diana at all. Calypso furiously calls his remark outrageous, but Ruri calmly replies that he's only speaking the truth. Glaring, Calypso retorts that Catherine resembles him instead. Ruri smirks, feigning innocence and asking what was so rude about his observation. As Calypso begins to lecture him on propriety, Ruri casually cuts him off. Yak! Ruri summons a giant flaming bird, causing Calypso to cry out in shock. "What are you doing?" Calypso shouts, but Ruri dismisses him, stating that noble status is meaningless to a mage. He smugly reminds Calypso that such worldly ranks mean nothing to the magic tower. Diana watches the display of overwhelming power, a force beyond that of ordinary humans. The narration explains the magic tower is a strict meritocracy, where talent transcends social status. For a mage of Ruri's standing, a mere duke like Calypso is utterly insignificant. Announcing he's busy, Ruri prepares to leave, but Calypso stops Catherine, a fresh scratch visible on his cheek. Ruri smirks at a wary Catherine, tauntingly asking if she's afraid of magic. Diana places a hand on Catherine's shoulder and dismisses her, much to the girl's confusion. Turning to the red-haired mage, Diana announces she has a favor to ask of Ruri, who listens intently. Diana requests that Ruri teach magic to Catherine as well, causing her daughter to shout, "What?" in shock. Stunned, Catherine stammers at the prospect of learning magic herself. Diana smiles, explaining that magic is a power that can be inherited within a family. The narration clarifies that if parents have magical talent, the power is passed down to their children. Looking at her anxious daughter, Diana asks if she's feeling uneasy about the idea. Diana watches Catherine with a cool, knowing expression. Catherine protests that she has no interest in magic, but Diana counters that it's a very convenient skill. Diana explains that learning magic isn't for a grand title, but for Catherine's own future. She tells Catherine that being a mage will be a great asset when she inherits her father's title. Leaning in, Diana quietly reminds Catherine of her promise to introduce her to Lord Sawyer. Immediately swayed, Catherine eagerly agrees to learn magic, wondering aloud if she has powers too. Ruri accepts the new arrangement, and Diana thanks him, scheduling joint lessons for the following week. Diana's expression falters as she realizes her desire for private lessons has been dashed. Ruri smiles warmly, seemingly pleased by the new development. Announcing his departure, Ruri vanishes in a swirl of fiery magic, leaving Diana and Catherine behind. Surrounded by a bloom of white roses, Diana thinks to herself that she has a mischievous teacher. The scene transitions back to the grand, sunlit ducal estate. As Diana walks through the hall with her maids, she is stopped by Alicia. Alicia asks Diana where she's been, remarking that it's hard to avoid watchful eyes. Diana calmly explains she was in the garden, having invited a teacher to learn magic. With a hint of a smile, Diana adds that something truly amusing happened, piquing Alicia's curiosity. Diana touches her cheek, coyly revealing her surprise at discovering how jealous Calypso can be. Alicia questions this, but Diana clarifies that Calypso's voice was full of anger when she introduced her teacher. Alicia scoffs, dismissing it as a misunderstanding on Diana's part. Diana counters that they even got into an argument, which leaves Alicia speechless. Clenching her fist, Alicia thinks that this new side of Calypso has made her see him in a different light. A determined glare crosses Alicia's face as she turns to leave. Fuming, Alicia thinks that Diana is spouting nonsense and that Calypso, her man, would never be jealous of her. As Alicia storms off, Diana watches her go, coldly vowing to take everything she has away from her. A maid announces Alicia's arrival at Catherine's room, and Diana invites her in. Alicia enters and immediately asks Catherine why her voice sounds so hoarse, wondering if she has a cold. Now in her nightgown, Catherine complains that Diana forced her to read books aloud. She adds that she has to do it every day, which shocks Alicia, who demands to know why. Catherine explodes with frustration, revealing Diana canceled her meeting with Lord Sawyer and even scolded her. Alicia's expression darkens as she thinks that Diana has now gone too far by meddling with her daughter. Alicia agrees with Catherine's assessment, calling Diana's recent behavior thoroughly unhinged. Alicia comforts Catherine, her anger towards Diana growing. Suddenly realizing the implication, Alicia grabs Catherine and demands to know what she meant about learning magic. Alicia shouts Catherine's name in disbelief. Grasping her shoulders, Alicia confirms if Catherine really agreed to learn magic, and Catherine admits she did. Exasperated, Alicia tells Catherine she has no magical power, but Catherine begs her to do something. Alicia explains that fooling magic examiners is impossible, and any tricks would only raise suspicion. Catherine panics, shouting that it's too late to back out and asking what she's supposed to do. The two stand together in the library, contemplating their next move. A sinister smile spreads across Alicia's face as she suggests there might be a way after all. Alicia summons Isel, who timidly asks why she was called, only to be harshly rebuked for talking back. Catherine looks on with a cruel smirk as Isel stands before them. Alicia holds the face of a silver-haired man, hesitantly addressing him as father, while a young Catherine watches from afar. Catherine stares in shock, identifying the woman as her own mother's close friend. The silver-haired man shouts Catherine's name as Alicia grabs her wrist from the floor, prompting an enraged Catherine to threaten to tell her mother about the filthy doctor. Alicia stares intently at Catherine and delivers a stunning revelation. "You're my daughter." The silver-haired man solemnly confirms Alicia's claim to a horrified Catherine, stating that it's the truth. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Catherine screams internally that the situation is insane. A menacing Alicia looms behind Catherine, threatening to expose the secret that she isn't Diana's real daughter. A memory shows Diana smiling blissfully, her hands clasped in joy. Over an image of a distraught Diana, a thought bubble cruelly dismisses someone as filthy and lowborn. Alicia condescendingly praises Catherine for figuring out the truth, leading Catherine to demand where Diana's real daughter is. Alicia reveals that the true heir is currently growing up among orphans. Alicia leans in to whisper her manipulative plan into Catherine's ear. Catherine contemplates Alicia's proposition on how to become the real young lady. A slight, determined smile appears on Catherine's face as she embraces the idea of becoming the true heir. The scene shifts to a grand, sun-drenched hall within the estate. In a library, a young Isel nervously denies being able to use magic. An older Catherine listens coldly as Isel insists she is just a commoner with no magical ability. Alicia informs Isel that a mage will be arriving and that she is expected to assist the young lady. Isel looks up, confused, asking if they want her to pretend that Catherine can use magic. In another scene, Catherine violently shoves a blindfolded Isel to the ground. Looking terrified, Isel questions why someone is being so talkative. Alicia angrily berates Isel, demanding she know her place and asking who gave her permission to speak. Catherine holds a shoe threateningly, warning Isel that one more misstep will bring consequences far worse than learning magic. Thud. Isel lies unconscious on the ornate floor. Alicia takes Catherine's hand, promising to assign a teacher and warning her to ensure nothing goes wrong. Alicia reassures Catherine that she is the only real young lady, and Catherine meekly agrees. A blonde woman with green eyes and a bandage over one eye stands thoughtfully on a sunlit balcony. Admiring the beautiful weather, she muses that it's a perfect time for some magic training. With a flourish, she unleashes a powerful swirl of blue ice magic. She closes her eyes in deep concentration. In another room, Isel struggles, reaching out as a faint magical wisp emanates from her hand. A brown-haired man in a white robe reports to Alicia that, while Isel shows potential, her magic is failing to manifest properly. The man finds her condition strange, explaining that even someone with low mana should be able to cast a minor elemental spell. Reading a magical text, Isel sighs, thinking she has a steep hill to climb. A disembodied voice maliciously asks an unseen Diana if she can hear. The voice continues, calling Diana's daughter useless as a hand reaches out weakly. Isel tells the maid she doesn't need flashing magic, only that it works by next week, placing her trust in him. Alicia touches her chin with a confident smile, vowing to give it her best shot. Outside, dazzling ice crystals materialize and float above the garden. The bandaged woman watches the display from her balcony, thinking that Isel has zero talent and is just being stubborn. A sly smile forms on her face as she decides this whole situation might actually be fun. A flashback shows a cloaked woman holding a baby, her thoughts drifting to the word talent. The memory focuses on a tight, supportive clasp of two hands. Back in the present, the bandaged woman stands on the balcony, surrounded by the crackling energy of her ice magic. Her expression softens with pity as she thinks of her poor daughter and makes a silent promise. Her determined gaze meets someone off-panel who addresses her respectfully as, "Your Grace." As the maid Milan enters with a lunch cart, the bandaged woman calmly tells her to come in. Milan proceeds to set the meal on a small table. Seated at the table, the bandaged woman thanks Milan by name. At the dining table, Diana stirs her soup, thinking she doesn't have much of an appetite. Suddenly, she looks up, startled by an unexpected sound. Through the window, the back of a figure with long red hair can be seen. Diana stands up from the table, recognizing the familiar voice. A smiling Ruri appears through the window panes, calling out to her and asking her to open the door. Outside the grand estate, Ruri states that he came for a supplementary class. Standing on the balcony, he explains their last lesson was too short and had too many distractions, so Diana thanks him for his consideration. With a friendly smile, Diana asks Ruri if he has had lunch yet. Ruri confirms that he has not. A maid serves them at a small table as Diana explains she has a lot she is curious about when it comes to him. As the maid tells them the food is warm and ready, Ruri seems bashfully pleased by her interest. He smiles warmly at her thoughtful gesture. A beautiful spread of food, including steak and salmon, covers the table as Diana begins to cut her meal. Diana observes him, thinking that wizards must eat heartily, but his table manners are flawless. She muses that he dines with the elegance of someone at a royal banquet. As they eat in silence, Diana notes she can't hear a single sound from him, and Ruri explains he was trained strictly. When Diana expresses surprise, Ruri adds that he found his parents later on. Diana immediately regrets asking, but tells him it's wonderful he found them, to which he simply agrees. She looks down with a sad expression. Ruri notices her somber face, thinking it's too sad for someone making a happy remark. He watches her across the table, wondering if she was actually unhappy all along. A few days later, the scene transitions to a beautiful garden gazebo. Catherine, holding hands with Alicia, arrives and announces she's home, and Diana happily welcomes her back. Diana, now in a red and gold dress, stands with Ruri as he greets Catherine and Alicia. Ruri asks who the lady beside Catherine is, causing Alicia to bristle with indignation at being called a lady. Alicia collects herself and formally introduces herself as the Grand Duke's personal physician. Diana reassures her, calling her Ali and confirming it's all right for her to be there. With a confident smile, Diana says it's time to see what Catherine's got. Ruri claps his hands together, ready to begin. He announces that today's lesson will begin with a level test for Catherine. Catherine gives a faint, confident smirk. Unseen, Isel peeks through a curtain, watching the group in the garden with a worried expression. She looks on with concern. Inside, Alicia instructs them to try one last practice and tells Catherine to get ready, who closes her eyes in concentration. From behind Catherine, Isel secretly channels a brilliant ice crystal into her own outstretched hand. Alicia praises their success, and Catherine celebrates, thinking it will be no problem at all. Catherine tells Isel it's almost time for class, and she will accompany her, calling her Doctor. Isel looks down, clutching her chest and steeling her resolve, knowing she has to do this. The lesson begins as Ruri explains that if one has mana, they should feel it flowing through their body. Standing with her arms crossed, Catherine confidently tells Ruri that of course she can feel it, while Diana watches. Diana watches them, and Ruri instructs Catherine to draw the mana into her palm, while Alicia notes her element must be ice. Confident she can do it, Catherine thinks about how that lowly thing will cast the magic in her place as she agrees. As a small chibi character floats by, Catherine raises her hand to cast the spell. She holds her hand out, but nothing happens. Alicia and Catherine both stare in shock and confusion. Ruri looks on thoughtfully as Catherine begins to panic, wondering why it's not working. Diana asks Ruairi for the results of the test. With a smug smirk, Ruairi announces that Milady has failed, stunning Diana. Alicia quickly explains that Catherine must have failed due to extreme nervousness, while Catherine, in a panic, insists she'll try again. With a confident smirk, the red-haired man declares that no matter how many times they try, the result will be the same. He then delivers the stunning news that the young lady has no mana at all, shocking the silver-haired Catherine and orange-haired Alicia. The blonde, veiled woman in the red dress questions the result, musing that magical power is supposed to be inherited and manifest easily in the young. Holding Alicia's wrist, the blonde woman finds it strange, stating that Catherine is her daughter, which leaves Alicia looking terrified. The red-haired man agrees that the case is unprecedented, as Catherine's hand begins to tremble. Fuming, Catherine internally seethes at how a lowly thing dared to humiliate her like this. She turns and walks back toward the grand, imposing mansion. The blonde, veiled woman tells Catherine that it can't be helped. When the woman suggests she take magic lessons alone, Catherine furiously objects, insisting that something isn't right. As Catherine tearfully vows to do something, the blonde woman's voice cuts her off, calling her name. The woman condescendingly lectures Catherine, telling her that a proper lady must admit what she cannot do. Catherine throws a tantrum, screaming, "I hate all of you," as she runs away, prompting a concerned Alicia to call out to her. The blonde, veiled woman calmly watches her go, advising someone off panel not to be too heartbroken. She finishes her thought with a cold smile, ominously warning that things will only get worse from here. Stomping down the hall, Catherine fumes that brat ruined everything. Thinking of Lord Sawyer, Catherine resolves that she must get on Diana's good side to meet him. With a murderous thought, Catherine races down the stairs, determined to kill her. Wham! She violently throws open a set of large doors. She finds the room empty, save for the remnants of ice magic melting on the floor near a discarded green cloak. Alicia reports to the blonde woman and the red-haired man that her ladyship is disappointed, which the blonde woman questions. With a smirk, the blonde woman corrects her, stating that she is the one who is disappointed in the noisy, empty shell. The blonde woman laments that the girl doesn't resemble her, and the red-haired man agrees, noting it's strange since she isn't a stranger. The red-haired man thoughtfully brings a finger to his chin, suggesting that the one she actually resembles is... He points directly at a stunned Alicia, declaring she looks like that lady over there, causing Alicia to flush. The blonde woman playfully tells Rory that Ellie is the same age as her, suggesting Catherine resembles Ellie from spending so much time with her. She turns to Alicia for confirmation, asking, "Right, Ellie?" leaving her looking down in silent distress. Looking exhausted, Alicia concedes, stating she will go see her ladyship now. The blonde woman smiles sweetly, telling Alicia she's the only one who truly cares and asking her to calm Catherine down. In a cute thought bubble, Rory suggests a private lesson, and the blonde woman happily agrees. Catherine bursts in on her mother, Alicia, frantically shouting that the girl has escaped. Horrified, Alicia realizes this turn of events is because of something she's done. She looks down in shock at the frozen floor, wondering how this is possible. Staring at the icy remains on the lock, Alicia realizes the girl broke through the door and escaped. Crash. An enraged Catherine smashes a vase while Alicia looks on, thinking it can't be true. Alicia grimly wonders if the girl was hiding her strength all along and resolves to find her immediately. A hand conjures a shimmering magical orb containing smaller spheres of light above a sunlit garden. The blonde, veiled woman watches the magical orb float by, her expression wistful. Lost in thought, she wishes she could see someone again, just as a maid rushes towards her, calling for your highness. The woman turns as the maid arrives, calmly asking what is wrong. The maid leans in to whisper that the head maid, Julia, has just left the estate secretly. The blonde woman's expression hardens as she processes the news. With two maids watching from afar, she wonders why Julia would leave without her orders. A thought bubble over images of Julia and an orange-haired woman states that Olia is Alicia's right hand and is likely acting on her orders. As Julia and the short-haired maid Milan appear, a thought notes that she has finally arrived. The blonde, veiled woman smiles to herself, thinking it has been a while since she had tea with Julia. From her seat inside, she hears a knock and calls out, "Come in," as the grand doors swing open. Julia enters and respectfully asks the Grand Duchess if she was summoned. The Grand Duchess confirms she had something to tell her. But first, she gestures to a table, inviting Julia to have some chamomile tea to help with her fatigue. As Julia raises the teacup to her lips, crash! It suddenly slips from her grasp and shatters on the floor. A maid with dark hair clutches her throat, choking as she realizes the tea tastes strange. Cough, cough. As the maid collapses, a cold Diana sits on the sofa and demands to know where her daughter is. The maid asks what she means, but Diana accuses her of knowing everything. Ugh, blah. The maid tries to vomit the tea, But Diana informs her that spitting it out won't help. Diana reveals a bottle of truth potion called Gladiolus, explaining that a single drop forces the truth out. She adds that she's the only one who can make it, as it requires alchemy and magical power. Leaning down to the terrified maid, Diana repeats her question, asking where her daughter is. The maid confesses that Diana's daughter escaped, leaving Diana stunned into silence. The scene shifts as a brown-haired maid complains about retraining the new staff and how quiet Miss Alicia has been. Someone calls the maid Julia, who turns, wondering if it's the doctor. Alicia appears, delivering the shocking news that Isel has escaped. A frustrated Alicia recounts how the brat she had with her used magic to escape. Enraged, Alicia bites her finger and orders her subordinates to bring Isel back, no matter the cost. A hand passes a pouch of money to Julia to carry out the order. Two maids watch silently as a cloaked figure departs on the secret mission. A flashback reveals that Catherine made Isel, who worked as her personal maid, suffer her entire life. Back in the present, the head maid cruelly informs Diana that Isel simply couldn't take the abuse anymore. Diana is horrified by the revelation, refusing to believe it. She frantically asks what the girl looks like, her own distraught reflection visible in the window. With tears in her eyes, the head maid begins to describe her, starting with her platinum hair. A memory of Isel's blonde hair flowing in the wind flashes by. The maid finishes, stating the girl has green eyes, exactly like yours, as a vision of a crying Isel appears. Ah ha ha ha. The head maid bursts into maniacal laughter, mocking Diana for ignoring the truth, even though she knew. Overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow, Diana breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. A flashback shows Isel's small feet running through puddles in a dark, rainy forest. She trips and falls hard onto the muddy ground. Weak and exhausted, Isel realizes she can't muster the strength to get up. Hearing a sound, she looks back in terror. A mysterious, tall figure in a dark cloak looms over her in the pouring rain. The chapter concludes, transitioning to a new scene. The head maid cackles with delight, calling the situation fun and praising Lady Alicia's wicked and vicious nature. Diana calmly calls for her blue-haired maid, Belinda, who answers immediately. With chilling resolve, Diana gives a single terrifying order. Kill this woman for me. Shocked, Belinda looks back at her mistress and pleads for her to reconsider. Diana weeps, begging her to get the demonic head maid out of her sight. Outside the grand estate, rain pours down from a dark, stormy sky. Inside, a mop stained with blood is left on the clean marble floor. As Diana watches from the window, two maids quietly clean up a pool of blood where the head maid once stood. Diana turns her back on the grim scene, staring out at the rain. The two maids cleaning the floor exchange a worried, silent glance. Now alone, Diana continues to stand by the window in the silent, empty room. She thinks to herself with a heavy heart that this is the first time she has ever killed someone, her reflection appearing in the rain-streaked balcony doors. Rain falls on the garden roses as the scene fades from the bloody floor. A close-up reveals Diana's eye, now filled with cold determination. Shivering by the window, she tells herself she cannot afford to be weak in this mansion. As a tear streams down her face, she steels her resolve, vowing to punish the other scumbags who remain. Her composure regained, Diana calls for a maid named Milan and orders her to summon Catherine. Milan, a maid with short blonde hair, bows and confirms the order. In a final, powerful flashback, Isel unleashes a brilliant torrent of blue light magic in the forest. A mysterious cloaked figure unleashes a powerful glowing magical spell in a dark forest. Landing in the rainy woods, the figure's ice magic erupts from the ground, startling a blonde girl nearby. The cloaked figure remains perfectly still and silent, observing the scene. Clutching a shard of magic, the blonde girl panics, wondering if an intruder has already been sent to the mansion. A wave of exhaustion hits her as she tearfully wonders if she overexerted her power. Thump! The girl collapses to the ground, and the cloaked figure looks down in surprise. As the rain continues to pour, the scene shifts to a large, imposing house. Inside, a woman with her hair in a bun gently tucks two sleeping children into their beds. Click. Startled, the woman turns to find the cloaked figure in her doorway and asks how they got in. The cloaked man, holding the unconscious blonde girl, explains he has come to leave her, leaving the woman speechless. The woman looks on with deep concern, noting the girl's terrible condition. Urging him to follow, she leads the mysterious cloaked man further into the building. Elsewhere, Diana stands in a lavish room, reeling from the shocking realization that her daughter worked as a maid in Catherine's room. Her attention is drawn to a bookshelf as she senses the faint trace of magic power. Shh. She reaches out, her hand sliding across the bookshelf to investigate. The bookshelf rumbles open, revealing a dark and secret passageway. Stepping into the hidden chamber, Diana scoffs at the thought of Catherine secretly locking a child in such a place. She freezes, her eyes landing on a horrifying sight: a moldy loaf of bread in a basket. A vision of her daughter's suffering flashes through her mind, and she collapses in anguish, realizing the bread was meant for her. Clutching a thin blanket, Diana weeps, heartbroken over how much her baby must have suffered while still trying to reach her. Her grief gives way to grim resolve as her eyes fall upon a small notebook left on a table. In another room, Catherine waits impatiently beside a stack of packed suitcases. Click, clack. Diana enters the room where Catherine is lounging and announces her presence. Standing before her, Diana calmly states, "I made you wait." Taking a seat, Diana smiles pleasantly and announces her intention to assign Catherine a new magic teacher. Catherine objects, claiming it's strange that she, as Diana's daughter, has no magic and that Rory must have been mistaken. She quickly changes her excuse, insisting she wants to hurry up and marry young Master Sawyer and is too busy with etiquette lessons for magic. Diana expresses deep regret for learning magic so late herself, hoping Catherine won't make the same mistake. But her true thoughts are cold and vengeful. She only wishes for Catherine to suffer twice the pain her own daughter went through. Catherine looks away, her expression clouded with frustration and annoyance. Impatiently, Catherine asks if she can leave, and Diana calmly dismisses her. With a frustrated turn, Catherine quickly walks out of the room. Diana watches her go, her expression carefully neutral and unreadable. Catherine disappears down the long, empty corridor. Left alone, Diana silently picks up the worn blanket her daughter used. She opens the child's notebook and begins to read, her mind reeling in disbelief at what she finds. A chilling realization dawns on her. Could it be that the child knew the truth? The writing reveals her daughter knew the Grand Duchess was her mother, but was heartbroken to see her love a fake daughter instead. Diana tortures herself with the memory of happily embracing Catherine, wondering if her real daughter was disappointed in such a foolish mother. She fears the worst, that her daughter, feeling abandoned, ran away to somewhere far. Clutching the blanket tightly, Diana whispers an apology, begging her dear daughter to wait for her. Meanwhile, her daughter lies peacefully in a bed, her condition stable for now. As she rests, Diana's determined thoughts echo. Just wait a little longer, until I find you. Elsewhere, a disturbed Alicia senses that something is strange and out of place. She peers into an empty pantry, searching for someone who isn't there. After questioning two maids, Alicia frantically searches a room and realizes in a panic that Yulia is nowhere to be found. Alicia worries, realizing she hasn't heard from Yulia in days and fearing something happened to her during Diana's search. As Alicia trembles with anxiety, a calm voice calls her name. It's Diana, now with a bandaged eye, approaching with Shane. Startled, Alicia turns with a look of barely concealed fury. Diana stands before her, a picture of calm confidence, flanked by her loyal maid. Diana, accompanied by Shane, coolly asks Alicia if something is wrong, mentioning she heard Shane looked pale, but Alicia deflects the question. Alicia smiles smugly as she conjures shards of glowing blue magic, remarking that she understands. A powerful stream of blue magic surges forward. Kaya! Alicia screams as the magic strikes her, sending her stumbling back while Diana and Shane watch in apparent shock. Diana calmly explains to a surprised Shane that a burst of magic must have gone wrong, damaging Lady Alicia's dress. On the floor, surrounded by magical residue, Alicia stares in disbelief at her torn dress, insisting it can't be. Diana feigns shock, her mouth agape as she looks down at the scene she orchestrated. Alicia grits her teeth, her face trembling with suppressed rage. She clutches the ruined fabric of her dress, her knuckles white. Composing herself, Alicia forces a smile and bids Diana farewell as she leaves. As soon as Diana's back is turned, Alicia's expression twists into one of pure, seething hatred. Diana watches her go, knowingly thinking about the direction Alicia is heading. Turning to Shane, Diana gives a final instruction, which the maid confirms she understands. The scene shifts to a pair of ornate, closed double doors, behind which a confrontation is brewing. Inside a grand office, a voice cries out for the silver-haired Calypso. Calypso angrily holds up the torn fabric of Alicia's dress, demanding to know how many times this has happened, while she feigns ignorance. The scene returns to Diana in a sunlit room, standing before a cart laden with drinks and treats. Diana entrusts a task to Shane, who smiles and accepts the responsibility. As Shane exits through a grand doorway, Diana watches her go with a determined expression. Shane peeks through the door and sees Alicia collapsed on the floor before a different maid pushes a serving cart. Diana stands silently outside the now closed doors, listening in. Inside, a distraught Alicia wonders just how long she will be forced to wait. In a memory, Alicia confronts Calypso, demanding to be made his wife, but he tells her to wait because Diana is still alive. Furious, Alicia slams the table, screaming at the prospect of waiting until she dies of old age. Calypso stands by the fire, looking stressed and weary from her outburst. Outside the door, Diana overhears Calypso telling Alicia they must wait for the Marquis and wonders what he means. Calypso reminds an impatient Alicia that he married Diana for a specific, calculated reason. He reveals that the Marquis promised him a diamond mine once Catherine has her debutante ball. Calming her down, Calypso asks her to hold on just until then, and she reluctantly agrees. Having heard the entire devastating conversation, Diana stands in the shadows outside the room and lets out a heavy sigh. Her mind flashes back with cold horror, realizing the day she was killed was the day of Catherine's debutante. Diana connects the pieces, understanding that she was kept alive only for money while her father unknowingly let his real daughter and granddaughter die. She pictures her father happily handing over the mine while celebrating a fake granddaughter, completely unaware of the truth. Her eyes burn with rage as she condemns them as the worst kind of trash. Her resolve hardened, she turns and walks away with purpose. Diana rushes from the mansion, her blonde hair streaming behind her as she escapes the suffocating lies. In the quiet of the garden, she reflects that she knew they were deceitful, but never imagined the depths of their betrayal, realizing everything was a lie. Overwhelmed by the painful truth, she clutches her chest and breathes heavily, tears welling in her eyes. She quietly opens a small, ornate compact mirror. The scene shifts to a sun-drenched stone pavilion in the garden. Ruari, the red-haired man, stands alone, looking around in confusion. He waits in an open field, wondering why his student isn't there yet for their class. Diana approaches from behind, calling out to get Ruari's attention. With a strained expression, Diana apologizes for her tardiness. Ruari glances back at her, sensing something is amiss. He turns to face her fully, asking with concern if something happened and if she's all right. Diana turns away, insisting she's fine while internally chiding herself for not hiding her emotions better. Unconvinced, Ruari reaches out and firmly grasps her wrist. Holding her in place, he stands behind her as she deflects, reminding him it's not like she can see his expression anyway. Ruari's gaze softens with deep concern as he looks down at the troubled woman before him. Diana looks forward, her expression one of quiet, determined contemplation. Slam! The grand double doors of the room are suddenly thrown open. Inside, Diana confronts a surprised Ruari, demanding to know how he found out her secret. Grasping her arms, Ruari sternly insists that she answer his question. Diana looks up at him, flustered and at a loss for words. They stand together in the ornate bedroom as a tense silence hangs between them. Ruari breaks the silence, beginning to explain himself. He bluntly confesses that she's just his type, leaving Diana speechless and blushing. He adds with a charming smile that he likes everything about her, even her bold attitude. Diana pulls away, incredulously asking if he let her deceive him just because he liked her, but he tells her not to be ridiculous. He spreads his hands, asking if his feelings aren't reason enough to help her. A hand reaches for Diana as she is surrounded by a soft, ethereal glow. Ruari extends his hand to her, explaining that he simply believed in her, as her title is not one easily earned. She stands silently before him, processing his unexpected and heartfelt confession. Looking down, Diana thinks to herself that perhaps this man is different. She reaches out and gently takes his cloak, finally speaking his name, Ruari. He looks down at her as they share a meaningful gaze, a new understanding blooming between them. Later, Diana enters the drawing room and asks her husband, Calypso, if he called for her. Calypso informs her that an invitation has arrived for her. Diana, now wearing a delicate veil over her eyes, questions the unexpected invitation. The invitation is from the Iberg ducal house, one of the capital's most prestigious families. They are known for hosting a special and highly exclusive tea party. Calypso knew the annual invitation would arrive, as a woman in a white dress is seen amidst letters. As Diana sips her tea, she thinks that he must accept the invitation to help Catherine's marriage prospects. Calypso looks at her with feigned care, telling her that he's worried. Diana recalls how he pretended to be worried before, only to send Alicia in her place. She takes a calm sip of tea and coolly asks if that is so. Calypso worries she'll be hurt by gossip, but Diana counters that Catherine would be upset if they didn't go because of her interest in Lord Sawyer. He then suggests sending Alicia instead, causing Diana to look up with suspicion. A few days later, the scene shifts to the magnificent Aberg estate. A luxurious blue and gold carriage waits by the grand entrance. A team of 4 pristine white horses stands ready to depart. Dressed in an elegant green gown, Alicia descends the stairs with a confident smile. She muses on Diana's generosity for providing the dress, already feeling as if she's the Duchess. Alicia and Catherine meet Calypso in the courtyard before leaving. Catherine happily greets Alicia, calling out to her as doctor. Dressed in a lovely yellow gown, Catherine beams with excitement. She tells Alicia how excited she is for the party, as Calypso looks on. Calypso remarks that the tea party has been long awaited, just as someone calls for the madam. The imposter daughter appears, her eye bandaged as she is helped by her maid, Belinda. From a distance, Catherine watches them arrive, thinking to herself that there's no helping it. In a flashback, the blindfolded imposter tells a silver-haired man she can't attend a party with her eyes in their current state. The silver-haired man gives a sinister smirk, remarking that she can't go unless a miracle happens. Back in the present, Alicia and Catherine exchange a smug, knowing glance, hinting at a scheme. Suddenly, a commotion from the entrance catches their attention, and they turn in confusion. They watch in shock as Diana, now wearing glasses, arrives alongside Calypso. A figure in white begins running hastily across the courtyard. The figure rushes past Alicia and Catherine, calling out for your grace. Diana looks up, startled by the sudden disturbance directed at her. An elderly high priest runs frantically toward Diana, shouting for the Duchess and ignoring a maid's plea to stop. The high priest rushes toward Calypso and Diana, proclaiming he has found her lost sight floating in the air. A confused Diana, her eye bandaged, asks what he means, while Alicia and Catherine look on in shock. Belinda, Diana's maid, cautiously says, "Hey," as she steps in front of Diana. Alicia angrily confronts the priest, calling him a fraud, for claiming Diana's sight is just floating around after she sacrificed it for holy power. The high priest sincerely insists he is no fraud, stating his only wish as a priest is to restore the Duchess's vision. Belinda reports that the man bears a priest's emblem, causing Alicia to fume with frustration. With a hand to her face, Diana wonders how this is possible, as she was certain she had passed her sight on to her daughter. The high priest closes his eyes in reverence, surrounded by a golden aura, as he calls the phenomenon a miracle. He explains to Diana that he sensed a lingering energy while meditating and has gathered it into a glowing blue orb in his hands. Diana stares at the orb in disbelief, asking if it's truly possible, as a wary Alicia watches. Catherine screams that it can't be real, while a panicked Alicia warns that it could be dangerous black magic. Diana speaks with quiet pain, telling them they don't know what it's like to be trapped in darkness. She resolves to cling to any hope, however foolish, while a concerned Alicia looks on. Now wearing glasses, Diana smiles, stating she can clearly feel that the crystal contains pure holy energy. As Diana and Belinda stand ready, the blue-haired maid confirms her mistress is proceeding. A brilliant flash of light erupts, forcing Alicia, Catherine, and Calypso to shield their eyes. A torrent of holy energy flows from the priest's hands, enveloping Diana in its light. Diana closes her eyes, serenely accepting the restorative power. The group watches from the fountain's edge as the miraculous healing takes place. From a distance, Calypso calls out her name with concern. Slowly, Diana reaches for the veil over her eyes, realizing with a gasp that she can see. Tearing the veil away, she weeps with joy, her sight fully restored. Calypso, Alicia, and Catherine stare in utter shock, while the priest and other onlookers celebrate the miracle. The household staff erupts in cheers, congratulating the Duchess and praising her kind heart for moving the heavens. Alicia and Calypso are left stunned and speechless by the sudden turn of events. Calypso awkwardly offers his congratulations, followed by a stammering Alicia, before Diana joyfully calls out to them. Diana then turns her attention to a worried Catherine, calling her name. In a rush of emotion, Diana pulls Catherine into a tight embrace. With tears of happiness, Diana tells her daughter she can't believe she's truly looking at her again. The watching servants and priest are moved by the touching reunion, calling it a true blessing. Clap, clap, clap! The staff applauds the heartwarming moment as the high priest quietly departs. The priest slips away unnoticed around a corner. Amidst a magical flourish of purple flowers, Sir Rory appears, wryly noting that the fake miracle was an interesting idea. The scene transitions to a lavish, sunlit drawing room. Diana reveals to Rory that she had reasons for faking her blindness, but no longer needs the ruse. She recalls her true objective, figuring out her enemy's plans to find her real daughter, a task impossible while blind. Having explained her motives, she now looks to Rory for an answer. Diana earnestly asks Rory for his help, believing together they can successfully fool everyone. A close-up reveals Rory's sharp, determined gaze as he considers her request. With a resigned smile, Rory remarks that he's too soft-hearted to refuse a plea from such beautiful eyes. He warmly agrees, promising to help her in any way he can. A relieved and blushing Diana gratefully thanks him. She begins to lay out the first step of her plan as the scene shifts back to the estate grounds. Back at the party, the imposter daughter panics, pushing against an unseen force in a flashback. In the present, a fearful Catherine clutches Diana's arm, worrying that the sight she received might be flawed. Diana calmly reassures her, saying she understands her fear but that everything is fine. Diana explains that since Catherine wasn't ill, it's impossible for her to have accidentally taken Diana's sight, leaving Catherine pale with terror. With a gentle smile, Diana stands before Catherine amidst a swirl of flower petals. Alicia and Calypso watch the exchange with growing suspicion and unease. Diana gently cups Catherine's face, asking if she's sick, as she doesn't look well. Flustered, the silver-haired Catherine clutches her dress and asks, "Oh my, really?" Diana asks Alicia to stay and care for Catherine, noting the girl is sweating too much to go out, but Alicia protests that she has already prepared. Suggesting they both rest, Diana looks down at a confused Catherine, who questions her mother's decision. Diana explains that it would be improper to send someone else as a substitute for the Grand Duchess. As Alicia looks on in shock, Diana announces that since her eyes are healed, she will attend the tea party herself. Diana calls for Belinda to help her dress again, and from off-panel, Belinda readily agrees. On the estate grounds, the silver-haired man stands with Alicia and Catherine, watching Diana walk away with her attendant Belinda. Teask. The silver-haired man glares with frustration, standing beside a worried-looking Alicia. As the silver-haired man walks away, Alicia hides a knife behind her back, thinking her carefully set stage has failed and everything is now tangled. Alicia calls out to her young lord as he departs, while a dejected Catherine collapses to her knees behind her. A grand carriage, drawn by 4 white horses, stands ready in the estate's driveway. Diana appears in an elegant pink gown, beautifully framed by roses. With a confident smile, Diana declares it's time to go. "Mother!" Catherine cries out, running towards Diana and the awaiting carriage. Catherine desperately pleads to be taken along, clutching her chest and insisting she feels fine now. In a dark moment of resolve, Catherine thinks she doesn't care who her mother is, as long as she can have young Lord Sawyer. She begs Diana to take her, promising to pretend to be the real daughter or do whatever is necessary. With a soft smile, Diana caresses Catherine's cheek and agrees to let her come along. "Overcome with joy," Catherine tearfully exclaims. "Yes, mother." Diana takes Catherine's hand, praising her for her decision. Watching them leave, Alicia vows that Catherine will experience the despair of both heaven and hell. A horrified Alicia calls out Catherine's name, her plan unraveling before her eyes. Thump! As the carriage pulls away, Alicia collapses to the ground in defeat. The heavy wooden wheel of the carriage begins to turn. The coachman sits atop the carriage, holding the reins as their journey begins. The carriage travels down a sun-dappled road through a verdant forest. Looking out the window, Diana muses that it's a beautiful day and has been a long time since she's been out. Narration explains that the trip from the Grand Duchy to the capital normally takes 3 days by carriage. However, using the Magic Tower's tunnel, the journey is only an hour, as shown by a glowing portal. Catherine tells her mother she is glad things turned out well, to which Diana responds with a questioning, Feeling guilty that Diana was sick because of her, Catherine explains she's relieved her mother is now better. Catherine then slyly asks if Diana will continue reading books to her, hoping to ease the burden on her heart. Diana smiles warmly, thinking Catherine's voice is like a canary's and fills her with joy. Catherine happily agrees to read for her, and Diana thanks her dear daughter. The carriage rumbles through a busy town square, where a black cat stalks a small mouse. Two young boys run through the cobblestone streets, one urging the other to hurry. From above, the two boys are seen running across a large courtyard. The boy in the cap excitedly tells his friend that today's snack is apple pie, as Isel watches from a distance. As he rushes forward, the boy warns they'll miss the pie if they're late, then suddenly yells, "Watch out!" Wham! A sharp sound effect indicates a collision. The boy apologizes for not looking, as his friend asks Isel, who has been knocked to the ground, if she is okay. Isel sits on the stone path, looking up with a somber expression after being knocked down. Meanwhile, the grand carriage enters the shimmering blue light of the magical transport gate. With a bright flash, the carriage disappears into the magical portal. The carriage clatters along the streets of a bustling city, having arrived at its destination. Peeking out the window, Catherine excitedly tells her mother that she thinks they've arrived. The coachman helps Catherine step down from the ornate carriage. Catherine gasps in awe at the sight of a magnificent mansion and its breathtakingly beautiful gardens. Diana inwardly notes that Catherine's awe is understandable, as the financially troubled Ernst duchy could never afford such luxury. As they walk toward the mansion, Catherine happily agrees with her mother. At the Aberg estate, a lavishly set dining table awaits guests for the tea party. Two noblewomen react with shock upon seeing Diana, expressing surprise after hearing she'd had an accident. Diana serenely explains to a pensive Catherine that, thankfully, a miracle occurred. A woman with long black hair and a grand blue gown arrives, greeted warmly by the other ladies as the Grand Duchess of Ernst. The elegant woman is introduced as Duchess Serena de Iberg. Duchess Serena smiles, expressing her relief at seeing Diana in good health. However, she then admits she was hurt that Diana sent her physician, Alicia, in her place. The Duchess dismissively refers to Alicia as the daughter of a minor house, causing Catherine to flinch. Diana smoothly apologizes, explaining she rushed over the moment she recovered, and Duchess Serena accepts. Diana then gestures to Catherine, prompting her to greet the Duchess. Catherine nervously steps forward and introduces herself with a curtsy to Duchess Serena. Catherine puts on a sweet, blushing smile for the Duchess. Duchess Serena appraises her, remarking on how pretty she is. The Duchess then gestures them further inside, mentioning that the other children are enjoying refreshments. When the Duchess invites Catherine to join them, Catherine starts to agree eagerly, but Diana firmly interrupts, saying no. Tap. Diana fabricates an excuse, claiming Catherine has a cold and must stay with her in case it's contagious. A shocked Catherine turns to her mother, questioning what she's doing. Realizing they're in public, Catherine bites her finger and contains her outburst. Diana thinks to herself that Catherine is now facing the consequences of her own lies. Duchess Serena decides it can't be helped, and says they'll introduce Catherine to the others another time. Ladies settle in for tea around the grand dining table. While Diana appears to enjoy herself, Catherine sits beside her looking miserable and sullen. Across the table, Duchess Serena smiles contentedly as the party proceeds. The scene transitions to an exterior view of the sunlit Aberg mansion. Later, the sun begins to set over a quaint town. A carriage makes its way through the town's cobblestone streets. Inside, Diana asks Catherine if she enjoyed the party, to which Catherine gives a clipped, unenthusiastic yes. Catherine seethes internally, thinking, like hell I did. She fumes silently, thinking she would have flipped the tea table if Duchess Iberg wasn't her future mother-in-law. The carriage passes through a shimmering blue magical gate. Looking out the window, Diana smiles faintly, struck by a beautiful sight. She wonders to herself if the sunset has always been so beautiful. As the carriage proceeds through the bustling town square, Diana continues to watch the locals. Her thoughtful expression shifts as she spots something that catches her eye. She sees a young blonde woman and a small child running down a side street. Her eyes widen in sudden alarm as she starts to shout. Diana yells for the carriage to stop as one of the horses rears in surprise. She quickly exits the carriage, telling Catherine that something urgent has come up. Diana orders the coachman to take Catherine home and then return for her immediately. She stands alone in the street as the carriage departs without her. With a look of fierce determination, Diana turns to follow her lead. She recalls the direction she saw the woman and child running. Picking up her skirts, she begins to run down the street. Tap, tap. She hurries down a shadowy cobblestone alley in pursuit. Her search continues as she runs through the narrow, winding streets of the town. A look of worry crosses her face as she scans the area, a single bead of sweat on her cheek. Spotting an orphanage, she realizes it's the most likely place her daughter would go if she had escaped. A young girl with short brown hair, holding a stuffed dog, turns as Diana calls out to her. Diana approaches two young girls at the orphanage, asking if they've seen a girl with silver blonde hair. The girl holding the stuffed dog replies that she isn't close with the person Diana described and doesn't know her name. Diana, with a gentle expression, asks the orphanage girl if she knows where the person she's looking for is right now. The girl with the stuffed dog shields her eyes from the sun, looking around for the person in question. Suddenly, the girl spots a young blonde girl in the distance and excitedly points her out, exclaiming, "Ah, there she is!" The blonde girl walks along the path carrying a laundry basket, thinking she's finished her chores for the day. She stops abruptly, her expression turning somber under the setting sun. With a heavy heart, she thinks that while she's busy with chores, her real family is still out there somewhere. Tap! A hand suddenly grabs her wrist, stopping her in her tracks. The hand belongs to a tearful Diana, who has finally caught up to the young girl. Their eyes meet, Diana's filled with sorrowful recognition, and the girl's with utter shock. Gasping, Diana is hit by a wave of painful memories. She recalls a vision of a rough, calloused hand offering her a piece of dry bread in a past life. Overcome with emotion, Diana gasps as tears stream down her face. She remembers the headmaid's frantic words from her past life, describing her lost child as having platinum blonde hair and emerald green eyes. Back in the present, Diana clutches the girl's hand, her heart aching with the truth she now sees before her. Diana is haunted by the agonizing memory of holding her child's lifeless body in her previous life. Wah! Crying out, "My baby!" she pulls the stunned girl into a desperate, emotional embrace. As the girl trembles in her arms, Diana asks for her name, and she tearfully replies, I'm Isel." Diana holds Isel tightly, repeatedly apologizing for her past failures. Sobbing, Diana begs forgiveness for not recognizing her own daughter until this very moment as they embrace in the golden light. Diana calls out her daughter's full name, Isel, my Isel, finally reunited. The scene transitions to a quiet fountain square as night falls. Diana and Isel now sit together on a park bench, the initial shock giving way to a quiet conversation. Holding her daughter's hand, Diana gently speaks her name. Diana asks Isel a surprising question. How long has she known that this foolish woman was her mother? Isel looks down nervously, admitting that her story might be hard to believe. She explains that she had an experience so vivid she can't distinguish if it was a dream or reality. Isel reveals she experienced the future, causing Diana to stare in shock. Diana's eyes widen as she has a stunning realization. Isel might be just like her, having knowledge of another life. Isel acknowledges how difficult her story is to believe, while Diana silently processes the implications. Diana gives Isel's hand a reassuring squeeze, looking at her daughter with unwavering conviction. Diana promises to believe whatever she has to say. She assures Isel that she will accept everything she experienced in the future, prompting a look of tearful relief from her daughter. Isel tearfully accepts her mother's promise, finally calling her Mother. A flashback begins, showing a large estate covered in snow as a baby cries. A blonde baby is shown crying, abandoned in a basket in the cold. Isel narrates that she grew up as an orphan, showing a woman standing before the orphanage in the snow. The flashback shows a young Isel playing with other children in the orphanage grounds. She recalls worrying about how she would survive after she had to leave the orphanage. As she sat alone, a white-gloved hand reached out to her. Isel reveals that the person who found her was Alicia. Her story continues as she is brought to the grand ducal estate. Alicia coldly informed Isel that she would now serve the young lady and should be grateful to be out of the shabby orphanage. Isel recalls thinking that serving a noble lady had to be better than her previous life, but her hopes were dashed. She remembers cowering in fear as someone screamed at her for a messy room. A young, silver-haired Catherine is shown angrily scolding a kneeling Isel. In the past, Catherine cruelly called Isel useless trash, ordering her to get up before yanking her hair. The painful memories echo against the backdrop of the grand estate. Isel remembers being left alone and hungry in a small, bare room. Someone then left a loaf of bread for her in a basket. As she picked up the bread, she found it was spoiled with a large patch of dark mold inside. Staring in disbelief, Isel flinches at the sight of the moldy bread. Thwack! She throws the spoiled bread onto the cold, tiled floor. Collapsed in despair, Isel questions how much longer she must endure being treated worse than an animal, and why she is being tormented. Sobbing, she wonders what she has ever done to deserve this cruelty. The painful memory begins to fade as the scene transitions. In another memory, Isel is shown dutifully sweeping the floor. Knock, knock. Holding her broom, Isel announces her presence to Catherine, who grants her entry. Alicia suddenly appears, sternly ordering Isel to stay inside the room, and Isel quietly obeys. A door creaks shut as Alicia walks away, leaving Isel behind. Isel watches her go, thinking with confusion that she's been found out. Hesitantly, she presses her ear against the door to listen in. Eavesdropping, she hears a voice declare that she has been found out. Inside, Alicia reveals to Catherine the truth about her relationship with Catherine's father. Isel reels in shock, realizing the physician had an affair with the Grand Duke. Narrating her memory, Isel recalls feeling pity for the Grand Duchess, who had gone blind. With scratches on her face, she has a sudden realization, questioning if Catherine is the Grand Duchess's daughter. She watches Catherine from the doorway, wondering why Alicia would share such a secret with the young lady. Alicia outlines her plan to confine Diana to a secluded cottage where no one can find her. Catherine, calling Alicia Mom, asks if simply confining Diana is enough. Isel covers her mouth, horrified by what she's hearing. Alicia casually dismisses Diana as a blind woman and lays out her plan to secure mining rights before Catherine's debutante. With a triumphant glint in her eye, Alicia declares that their ridiculous charade will soon be over. Catherine eagerly asks if this means Alicia will finally become the Grand Duchess. Alicia adds they must also dispose of that in the back room, ensuring Calypso never discovers his real daughter is alive. Laughing cruelly, Alicia calls Isel a worthless eyesore, just like her foolish woman of a mother. As tears and sweat stream down her face, Isel struggles to comprehend their words. Trembling, she is struck by a world-shattering revelation. She is the Grand Duchess's daughter. A promotional banner appears for the Scanlation Group. A promotional banner is displayed for the Webtoon platform. Still on the floor, she grapples with the unbelievable truth that she, an orphan raised as a maid, is the true heir. A wave of understanding washes over her as she reaches for the door. She now understands why Alicia locked her away, recalling the woman's menacing presence. It's because she is part of the true family, a truth hidden by the fakes. Defeated, she begins to form a vow, thinking, "I'll never, ever forgive them," she resolves, as a brilliant blue energy suddenly erupts from her body. The scene dissolves into a flurry of light and crystalline snowflakes. Staring at her glowing hands in disbelief, Isel wonders what this strange power is. As the blue aura swirls around her, she questions if this could be magic. Her expression hardens with resolve, her newfound strength overshadowing the memory of her younger, helpless self. Later, she is seen sleeping peacefully in a comfortable bed. However, the door to her room is now secured with a heavy padlock from the outside. Trapped again, Isel tries the door, wondering if her powers were a fluke, but determined to escape today. With a determined gaze, she decides she must try one more time. She places her hand on the door, and the magical blue energy crackles to life around her fingers. The magical energy surges through the air with a faint hum. Her magic flows into the padlock, which audibly clicks open, and she smiles, realizing it worked. Now cloaked and hooded, she carefully peeks out from behind a bookshelf into a hallway. The grand hall is empty, offering a clear path to the main doors. Under the cover of a starry night, the wind rustles through the trees. Isel flees through the dark woods, finally making her escape from the estate. As part of her story, a tearful Isel recalls the shocking conversation she overheard. She remembers Alicia revealing her plan to lock Diana in a hidden cabin on the Grand Duke's estate. Back in the past, a cloaked Isel navigates the woods at night. She finally understands where her mother is being held captive. Inside a rustic cabin, a weary Diana stirs from her sleep. Creak! As the door opens, Diana asks who is there, seeing the cloaked figure of Isel. With tears streaming down her face, Isel realizes it's truly her mother. She rushes toward Diana, shocked to find her in such a desolate place. The vision continues, with Isel seeing her frail mother and recalling the bread, vowing to save her once she's strong enough. Crying, Isel tearfully begs her mother to just hold on until then. As Isel runs away, Alicia watches from the shadows with a cold, knowing smile. A few days later, the scene transitions to the grand ducal estate under a starry sky. Back in her room, Isel practices her magic, noting that controlling the glowing crystals is becoming easier. She sits on the floor, hungry, next to her cleaning supplies. She looks at a basket of food but remains resolute in her mission. With a gentle expression, she strengthens her resolve, knowing her mother will keep starving if she doesn't act. Returning to the cabin, Diana calls out, mistaking the cloaked Isel for Catherine. Isel thinks of her foolish mother and prepares to reveal the truth, stating, "I'm your daughter." She cautiously approaches Diana, who remains seated on the floor. As Isel flees through the woods, she's suddenly spotted from behind a tree. In her mind, Isel clarifies she is not Catherine and wonders when she can reveal the truth so they can escape together. Whoosh! A voice calls out Isel, asking if she enjoyed her night walk as she finds herself surrounded by guards, Alicia, Catherine, and the Grand Duke. Isel looks up, her face pale with shock and fear. Catherine runs to her father, pointing an accusing finger at Isel and reporting that she disobeyed orders by going near the cabin. Calypso observes Isel coldly, wondering why a young maid is out so late, while Isel recognizes him as her father. With Alicia and Catherine at his side, Calypso declares that Isel must be punished for disobeying orders, as guards aim their bows at her. Alicia glares at Isel, venomously stating that she deserves to die for repaying their shelter with betrayal. Isel turns her head away, her expression defiant. Standing before her accusers, Isel internally scoffs at the word shelter. Catherine angrily screams at Isel to know her place. As Catherine lunges forward, Isel raises a hand, unleashing a wave of blue energy that stops Catherine in her tracks. Alicia and Calypso stare in shock, with Calypso questioning if he just saw magic. Kaya. The force throws Catherine to the ground as Calypso shouts her name in alarm. Enraged, Calypso reaches out and orders his guards to act. A guard raises his bow and releases an arrow. The arrow soars through the air, aimed directly at the stunned Isel. Isel watches in terror, pleading for them to stop. Her eye glows with brilliant blue light as she contemplates using her magic to defend herself. In a fleeting memory, she sees her father comforting Catherine, realizing with pain that he is wrong about everything. As the arrow strikes her, she desperately thinks that she is his real daughter and questions why he can't recognize her. Overwhelmed by questions about her mother and their fate, her world begins to fade. Pierced by 2 arrows, Isel collapses in the pouring rain, unable to speak. Her hand reaches out weakly as she tries to say the word father one last time. Gasps. Isel suddenly jolts awake in bed, clutching her chest. Looking around her simple room, she wonders in confusion what just happened. She sits up, realizing with shock that she isn't dead, even though she clearly remembers being shot. With a lingering echo in her mind, she touches her chest, still shaken by the vivid memory. Her story is interrupted by the sound of a young Catherine pushing open a library door and yelling for her to get out. The bookcase door creaks shut, ending the flashback. Back in the present, Isel tells Diana that she heard her ladyship call for her. Kia, a young Catherine, violently shoves Isel, screaming at her to get out. On the floor, amid a mess, Isel realizes this has happened before as Catherine coldly orders her to clean it up. Looking down at Isel, Catherine confirms she understands her orders. Trembling, Isel subserviently agrees with Catherine, calling her Your Grace. The memory fades as Isel, clutching a cloth, finds herself floating in a magical circle, questioning if she has truly returned to the past. Clenching the cloth, she understands that no matter how it happened, this is her second chance. A fiery resolve burns within her as she vows not to simply endure her fate this time. With a determined glint in her green eyes, Isel prepares for the future. In a moonlit garden, Isel asks Diana if what she said is true, and Diana confirms that she too has come back in time. A single tear falls from Diana's eye as she reveals the shocking truth. As Isel listens in disbelief, Diana tearfully explains that her mother has also returned. The story's title card is displayed. Overwhelmed, Isel covers her mouth, trembling as she processes the impossible revelation. Diana gently strokes Isel's hair, stating that it can't be a coincidence they both return together. Clenching her fist, Diana turns away, her voice hardening as she declares her desire for revenge. She lists her targets: Alicia, Catherine, and the foolish father who caused her death. Isel's expression mirrors her mother's fury as she vows to make them pay 100 times over. Diana looks at her daughter with sorrowful understanding, thinking of her suffering and resolving to succeed. Taking her daughter's hands, Diana looks her in the eye and agrees to their plan for vengeance. Diana and a cloaked Isel meet a man by a carriage, and Diana apologizes for the wait. The dark-haired man in the top hat gives a slight nod. His attention turns to the small, cloaked figure beside Diana, and he asks who she is. Diana ignores the question and firmly instructs him to take them to the March of Pereshte. The grand carriage departs, carrying them through the woods under the cover of night. A hand pulls a cloak tighter, a silent gesture of determination. Inside the carriage, Isel looks around with wide, sparkling eyes, utterly amazed by the luxury. She tells her mother it's her first time in such a soft chair, and Diana watches her quietly. Diana notices how thin her daughter is and resolves that their first step must be to help her regain her strength. Isel looks down sadly, worrying that her grandfather will dislike her for her frail appearance. She recalls the rumors she heard at the orphanage about the great wealth and honor of the House of Pereshte. Feeling shabby, Isel worries about her appearance, but Diana gently reassures her that it isn't true. When Isel questions her, Diana smiles and admits that her grandfather can be a bit particular. As a magnificent mansion comes into view, Diana promises Isel that she'll understand soon enough. Inside, the household staff murmurs in surprise at their unexpected arrival. A hand firmly knocks on a large, ornate door. A maid opens the door to a stern, older man with blonde hair, addressing him as "my lord." The maid's eyes widen as she looks past him, noticing the young lady who has arrived. A grand announcement echoes through the hall. Duchess Diana has arrived. Diana and Isel stand together, ready to face the lord of the house. The scene shifts to the opulent drawing room where they will meet. Diana and Isel wait patiently on a sofa. The blonde-haired lord enters, questioning why Diana has come at such a late hour. His gaze then falls upon Isel, and he demands to know who the girl is. Diana calmly declares that Isel is her daughter, leaving her father stunned into silence. The lord explodes in anger, demanding to know what she's talking about, but Diana calmly states she will explain everything. With a solemn expression, Diana begins to recount her story, warning him it will be difficult to believe. The camera pans across the tall, elegant windows of the mansion. A teacup clinks softly as it's placed on its saucer, breaking the tense silence. Trembling with rage, Diana's father rises from his seat, struggling to process her words. He erupts in fury, accusing her of not only committing adultery but also hiding a child from him. Diana pleads with her enraged father to calm down. Slam. He furiously asks how she can be so calm, but she simply replies that she is waiting. Diana clarifies she is waiting for the perfect moment to strike back even harder. Looking at her father, Diana states that she needs his help to enact her plan. In a tender memory from her wedding day, her father calls her his precious girl. Her father thinks of Diana returning to the den of treacherous snakes, and, despite his burning anger, knows his pain is nothing compared to hers. Turning his attention to Isel, he asks for her name, startling her into a quiet confirmation. When he asks about her life, Isel reveals she worked as a maid hidden inside Catherine's bookshelf. His gloved hand reaches out as he softly says his daughter's name, Diana. With newfound resolve, Diana's father looks at her and vows to help in any way he can. The scene shifts to the magnificent Grand Ducal estate, gleaming under the sun. At the dinner table, Calypso remarks on Diana's presence, and she announces she has something to say to everyone. Calypso pauses his meal, curiously asking what she wishes to say. With a serene smile, Diana makes a stunning declaration. She's going to adopt a girl. Calypso and Alicia are stunned into silence, with Alicia finally gasping, "W.H. What?" Slam. Catherine stands up abruptly, shouting at her mother and demanding to know why she would adopt when she already has a daughter. As Calypso questions her decision, Diana explains she heard from her father that a blood relative of the Pereshte family was discovered at an orphanage. Taking a sip from her glass, she adds that there is no one else to raise the girl. Diana suggests raising the girl as Catherine's sister, but Catherine furiously refuses, screaming that she doesn't need one. Unfazed, Diana looks at her daughter and suggests that a model older sister might help her change for the better. A maid approaches the table and addresses Diana, who has finished her meal. A luxurious carriage drawn by 4 white horses pulls up to the golden gates of the estate. A young blonde girl, Isel, now in a clean white dress, stands quietly before a grand set of doors. Isel enters the dining room, her sudden appearance catching the family completely by surprise. Catherine stares in shock, unable to believe it, as Isel offers a polite, "Hello." The head maid observes the new arrival, thinking that while she is family, she is the spitting image of Lady Diana, a thought she has while watching over the sleeping Isel. In a flashback, Diana stands by a carriage, seeing her father and a maid named Lisa off. She asks them to please take good care of Isel for a while. Back in the present, a maid's voice gently tries to wake Isel, calling her Your Grace and Young Lady. Isel sits up in a lavish, sunlit bedroom as the maid stands beside her bed. Looking slightly disoriented, Isel slowly comes to her senses. The maid asks if anything is wrong, but a flustered Isel quickly insists she's fine. The scene pans across an opulent dressing room, filled with elegant dresses and furniture. Isel gasps, her eyes wide with disbelief at the luxurious sight before her. She stammers in amazement, asking the maid how all the dresses were prepared so quickly when she only just arrived. The maid chuckles, explaining that there was a huge commotion the previous night. A brief flashback shows Diana's father shouting orders to an attendant to act immediately. The maid explains that his command sent every boutique in the empire into a frenzy to find suitable clothes. She apologizes that the dresses are only ready-made, as they were gathered in a hurry. With a kind smile, the maid tells Isel she will dress her in a beautiful gown right after her bath. A magnificent and sun-drenched bathroom is revealed, featuring an ornate tub and elegant decor. A team of maids tends to Isel, brushing her long hair and removing her simple shoes. One of the maids gently runs her fingers through Isel's soft blonde hair. The head maid watches with a pained expression, thinking Isel must have endured so much hardship living in the orphanage. With her hair tied up, Isel nervously agrees when the maid asks if she's ready to head into the bath. Soaking in a large, bubbly tub, Isel tells the maid the water feels nice. With a contented sigh, Isel relaxes in the warm bath, gently playing with the foam. While the blonde girl Isel relaxes in a grand bathtub, the maid Lisa adds a fragrant oil to the water. Isel tentatively speaks up, and Lisa turns to her, asking what she needs. Isel thinks about the expensive bath oil, recalling it was a luxury Catherine had desperately wanted. Placing her hands on Isel's shoulders, Lisa assures her that she is to be treated with only the finest things. Lisa smiles, telling Isel to enjoy all the luxuries she's never experienced, as they rightfully belong to her now. In a flashback, Isel realizes Lisa is right. She is no longer the maid who was verbally abused by Catherine. Another flashback shows a lonely young Isel as she reflects that she's no longer an orphan in a rundown home. Back in the present, Isel sits in the opulent bath as Lisa stands watch nearby. In a dining room, a stern-looking man with blonde hair thoughtfully touches his chin. Now wearing a simple white dress, Isel nervously addresses the man as Your Grace. The blonde man compliments her appearance, and she shyly thanks him for the lovely dress. He curtly dismisses her thanks, claiming the dress was merely a spare they had in the estate. Isel smiles knowingly, thinking that the maid Lisa has already told her everything, as the man looks away. A maid wheels in a serving cart, presenting a magnificent lobster. 2 maids begin to serve Isel an elaborate meal at the head of a long, formal dining table. Isel looks on in awe at the lavish spread of food, including steak, lobster, and roasted potatoes. The blonde man watches from the other end of the table, telling Isel to eat comfortably as she remarks how delicious it all looks. Hesitantly, Isel hovers her hands over the perfectly set table. Overwhelmed by the sheer amount of food, she wonders how she's supposed to eat it all. She worries about the numerous utensils, admitting to herself that she doesn't know the proper etiquette. Fearful of being scolded, Isel is afraid to make a wrong move. The blonde man calmly picks up his own utensils and begins to cut his steak. He takes a bite of his meal, again telling her to eat without worry. He kindly reassures her that everything can be learned slowly, and there's no need for embarrassment. Relieved by his words, Isel looks down at her plate, ready to begin. With a bright, grateful smile, she thanks him and promises to eat well. The man tells her to call him grandfather, as she is his only granddaughter, and Isel happily agrees. In the background, 3 staff members, 2 maids and a butler, smile warmly at the touching scene. Isel happily savors her first bite of the luxurious meal. Her grandfather watches her eat with a fond expression, deciding they'll need to increase her meal portions. She pauses mid-bite, a small crumb on her cheek, taking in the moment. A flashback shows a hooded figure kneeling before a blonde woman in a rustic dwelling. Isel gets her grandfather's attention, explaining that she has a favor to ask. She earnestly implores him to help her become a perfect lady as quickly as possible. Her grandfather takes a sip of wine, stating that her mother's revenge is sufficient on its own. Isel passionately disagrees, declaring that she must be the one to protect her mother. Thump! Her grandfather places his hand firmly on the table. He falls silent, contemplating her impassioned plea in the vast dining room. In a memory, a younger Diana resolves that they are waiting for the right time to enact a greater revenge. The grandfather looks at Isel, observing that her resemblance to her mother goes beyond just her face. With a look of grim determination, he declares that he will help her. A title card for the story is displayed. Now in a beautiful new dress, Isel walks confidently towards a set of grand doors. She smiles, looking radiant and composed in her elegant attire. Diana introduces Isel to a man and invites her to take a seat. As a maid pulls out a chair, Isel politely responds, "Yes, mother," while walking toward the table where Calypso and Catherine sit. From her seat, a shocked Catherine internally fumes, questioning how Isel could call Diana mother after just meeting her. Isel maintains a serene and gentle smile, seemingly unfazed. Catherine grips her dress tightly, her face contorted in disbelief and rage. Elsewhere, Alicia trembles, thinking that this turn of events makes no sense at all. An icy silence falls over the grand dining table as the family sits together. Calypso chides Diana for adopting a child without consulting him first, warning that such matters require care. Diana smiles sweetly, asking if he'd like to hear her father's suggestion. She reveals her father proposed that because Isel has magical talent, she should enter the magic festival with Catherine, shocking Calypso. A montage explains the magic festival, a grand celebration by the Mage Tower, where talented individuals compete by performing magic. A magnificent star-shaped pendant is revealed, likely the grand prize for the festival winner. Back at the table, Diana explains that her father promised a great gift to whichever girl passes the competition. With a sly smile, Diana suggests the gift might be the diamond mine, stunning Calypso with her audacity. Slam! Calypso explodes in anger, shouting that the mine was meant to be Catherine's debutante gift. While Isel remains composed, Catherine seethes with rage at the news. Thump! A hand slams down on the table in frustration. Stating she feels unwell, a distressed Alicia excuses herself from the table. Catherine quickly follows, declaring she's leaving as well. Calypso, Diana, and Isel are now left alone at the long, empty dining table. Isel sweetly tells her mother that the food is delicious. The headmaid approaches and discreetly hands Diana a folder of documents. Diana presents the adoption papers to Calypso, instructing him to finalize the process by the end of the day. Calypso realizes his hands are tied, thinking it will be difficult to oppose the adoption now that Diana's father has wagered the mine rights. Resigned, he accepts the folder, agreeing to the adoption. Calypso rises from his seat, holding the papers and preparing to depart. Isel watches him with a sweet smile as he glances back at her before leaving. Now alone, Calypso sits at the head of the table, staring at the adoption papers before him. He muses that while Isel is overwhelming, her magical ability makes her more than worthy of being a noble lady. As Isel clenches her fist with a sigh, Diana asks what's wrong. Isel thinks to herself that she feels sick, seeing the face of the man who killed her in her past life. Diana comforts her daughter, saying she understands the feeling and offers to postpone their tour of the estate. With newfound determination, Isel refuses to postpone their plans. In Catherine's room, Isel watches Alicia console the crying girl, thinking it would be fun to start the tour here. A promotional page for the Scanlation team is displayed. Catherine cries inconsolably, her face etched with misery and frustration. She erupts, screaming at her mother for bringing Isel into her room, declaring she doesn't want to see her. Diana calmly questions her outburst before formally introducing Isel as her sister. Alicia scoffs from the sidelines, incredulously questioning how that girl could be the young lady's sister. Looking directly at Alicia, Diana asks if she and Isel have never met, startling the orange-haired woman. Diana's gaze hardens as she sternly warns Alicia that there are lines not to cross and that she is not to speak down to Isel. A chastened Alicia bows her head and apologizes to Diana. Diana coldly tells Alicia to direct her apology to the right person. Diana specifies that Alicia must sincerely apologize to Isel, the new lady of House Ernst. Alicia inwardly seethes, shocked and resentful at being told to apologize to that. Forcing herself to bow, Alicia offers Isel a reluctant apology for speaking out of turn. Diana coolly accepts the apology on Isel's behalf, stating that it's fine. With a sharp tone, Diana adds that such behavior is expected from someone who wasn't taught better, referencing Alicia's origins in the struggling Viscount Blair household. As Catherine listens with gritted teeth, Diana continues, questioning if Alicia's family receives support from the Pereshte household. Isel clasps her hands together and smiles brightly, declaring that she understands everything now. Her attention then shifts to a nearby bookshelf, which she reaches out to touch. As Catherine watches suspiciously, Isel walks along the bookshelf, noting that it's exactly the same as she remembers. Turning to Catherine with a bright smile, Isel sweetly asks if she's been well. Catherine glares at her with pure fury. Pointing an accusing finger, Catherine demands to know what kind of scam Isel pulled to become their grandfather's relative. Isel feigns confusion at the word scam, while inwardly panicking, wondering if Catherine somehow knows the truth. With a sharp gaze, Isel leans in and accuses a shocked Catherine of being the one who lied. Isel recalls how Catherine used her to release magic and deceive her own mother, Diana. In a swift motion, a hand grabs at Isel's dress. Catherine realizes what Isel meant, smiling smugly as she thinks she could easily learn that kind of magic herself. Isel threatens to reveal how Catherine and Alicia locked her in a bookshelf and abused her, effectively ending Catherine's magical career. Enraged, Catherine asks if she's being threatened and vows to simply get rid of the bookshelf. Turning her back on the furious girl, Isel calmly suggests they handle it another way. Isel walks across the room, her footsteps echoing quietly. She picks up a porcelain teacup and deliberately pours out its contents. Crash! The teacup shatters on the floor, stunning Catherine into a furious silence. Isel stands defiantly over the broken pieces, looking up at Catherine. Crouching down, Isel taunts Catherine, asking why she doesn't just move the shards with her precious magic. Catherine finally snaps, lunging toward Isel while screaming that she's a filthy brat. With a furious expression, Catherine raises her hand to strike Isel. The scene shifts to the grand estate outside, as if to punctuate the explosive moment within. Alerted by the commotion, Diana, Alicia, and the maids are startled. Diana bursts through the doors, demanding to know what's going on. She freezes, horrified by the scene, Catherine kneeling over a bloodied and seemingly unconscious Isel. Isel's eyes flutter open as she weakly calls out for her mother. Diana rushes to her daughter's side, cradling her and asking if she's all right, to which Isel weakly confirms she is. Turning her rage on Catherine, Diana demands an explanation, but the silver-haired girl can only stammer in shock, holding a bloody shard. Diana's fury intensifies as she screams at Catherine to speak. As Catherine panics, trying to deny her involvement, Isel interjects, claiming it's her own fault. Surprised, Diana looks at Isel, who is now the center of attention for everyone in the room. Cradled in her mother's arms, Isel begins her fabricated story, claiming she only wanted to get closer to Catherine by asking to share a room. She continues the lie, explaining that Catherine reacted poorly and threw a glass at her, shocking the listening maids. With tears in her eyes, Isel begs Diana not to scold Catherine for what happened. A flashback shows Catherine lunging at Isel in a rage. The memory continues, showing Catherine raising her hand to slap her. The flashback reveals the truth. Isel subtly picked up a sharp piece of the broken teacup. As Catherine attacked, Isel quickly and deliberately cut her own arm and chest with the shard. Isel let out a scream of pain, perfectly timing her self-inflicted injury with Catherine's attack to frame her. In her thoughts, Isel confirms she knew Catherine would attack, holding the bloody shard as evidence of her plan. Back in the present, Catherine clutches her own bleeding hand, which was cut during the altercation. A maid chastises Catherine for attacking a lady as Isel suddenly grabs her injured hand, causing her to cry out in pain. Holding Catherine's wrist, the blood from Isel's hand smearing onto Catherine's, she calmly says, "Don't worry." Catherine struggles to pull away, pleading to be let go. Isel coldly informs her that no matter what, the entire estate will now hear about this incident. The image of a bloody Isel on the floor flashes again as her narration concludes that everyone will know of Catherine's cruelty. A tearful and horrified Catherine can only ask, "What?" as the reality of her situation sinks in. The scene replays from Catherine's perspective, showing her mother bursting into the room. She relives the moment of discovery, now understanding how perfectly she has been framed. Catherine desperately points at Isel, screaming that she's acting, and that Isel was the one who hurt her. Her face shadowed with rage, Diana silences her with a thunderous shout of, "Catherine!" Alicia and the other maids watch the scene unfold, their expressions filled with shock and dismay. The group stands in tense silence, looking on as the family drama explodes. Diana furiously scolds Catherine, asking what kind of lady acts so recklessly, and declaring she didn't raise her to be this way. As Catherine cries in despair, Diana delivers the punishment. Her room will now belong to Isel. Diana calls for two maids, Shane and Milan, and orders them to start clearing out Catherine's room immediately. As Diana declares they will redecorate the room for Isel, a defeated Catherine stands alone, stunned into silence. Diana comforts the bloodied Isel, telling her they need to get her treated right away, and Isel meekly agrees. As Catherine walks away with her bleeding hand, Alicia calls out her name. Thump. Alicia leads the defeated Catherine out of the now renovated room and down the hall. The scene transitions to a bright, sunny view of the magnificent estate. Catherine stands alone in a vast, opulent library. A silent moment of despair. With tears of rage in her eyes, Catherine furiously questions her own magical abilities, wondering if she's incapable. Stomping through the library, Catherine demands all books related to forbidden magic, resentfully recalling how Diana only ever made her read. The camera focuses on a row of old, leather-bound books on a sunlit shelf. A single green book, adorned with a silver tree emblem, is pulled from the shelf. Countless books fly through the air around Catherine, as she realizes Diana's old enchantments are finally proving useful. Thud. Her bloodied hand rests atop a fresh stack of books she's gathered. Sitting at a desk, Catherine opens the forbidden tome, doubting her ability but vowing to make Isel regret everything. The scene shifts to a tranquil image of two birds chirping on a branch, a moment of calm before the next storm. As butlers move a new sofa into the room, Catherine, now in a purple dress, watches the redecoration begin. Two men in tuxedos carefully carry in an ornate, marble-topped table. A pair of maids work together to hang a large, gilded mirror on the freshly painted wall. The butlers carefully position a heavy, elegant wooden wardrobe in the room. Catherine watches the staff work, thinking the new furniture is far more luxurious than hers, and questioning why Isel deserves it. A maid informs a shocked Catherine that her grandfather personally selected all the new items. Isel appears, condescendingly remarking that House Ernst must be poor before sharply ordering Catherine to move. Enraged, Catherine clenches her fists, shouting that she is in no mood to speak with the likes of Isel. Alicia clears her throat, attempting to de-escalate the tense situation. The three stand in a silent standoff in the hallway, with Alicia positioned between the two girls. Alicia gently offers to rewrap the bandages on Lady Catherine's injured hand. Isel gives a dismissive glance and coolly tells Alicia to go ahead, granting her leave. A medical kit is opened, revealing neat rows of vials, scissors, and clean bandages. While tending to the wound, Alicia tells Catherine it's healing well but will likely leave a scar. Alicia pointedly asks Catherine if she tried to attack Isel again, prompting a sullen silence from the silver-haired girl. Catherine explodes at Alicia, questioning her pride for bowing her head to Isel. Alicia urges her to calm down, asking if she truly wants to lose to Isel, to which Catherine furiously screams, "Absolutely not." Leaning in, Alicia sternly advises Catherine to learn emotional control and stop rushing into fights. Catherine snaps back, questioning why Alicia is also scolding her when she was the one who got hurt. A tense silence falls as Catherine glares with pure hatred at a stern-faced Alicia. Alicia promises she will figure out a way to handle the upcoming magic exam for her. "Forget it," Catherine says dismissively, turning away from a surprised Alicia. Walking away with renewed purpose, Catherine declares she has her own plan to become the real Grand Duchess. Thud! As Catherine leaves, Alicia watches her go, muttering in exasperation. Alicia stands alone, a look of deep concern on her face as she ponders the situation. Her hand rests on the cool marble table, her fingers slightly tensed. A frantic flashback shows a younger Catherine screaming that brat ran away. As she walks, Alicia thinks with regret that they never should have let Isel go from the start. Pacing in a room, she laments that this mess could have been avoided and wonders what to do now. A dark aura flashes around Alicia as a sinister idea strikes her. With a sudden cry of, "That's it!" she rushes from her spot. Alicia sits at a desk and begins to hastily write a letter with a quill pen. Her thoughts turn to the underworld, a place known to take on any request for the right price. Recalling that the underworld deals in information and even murder, she resolves that this is her only option. In a vast and lonely room, Alicia continues to write, the scratching of her quill the only sound. Diana smiles gently, a look of serene happiness on her face. Inside an opulent new room, Diana stands with Isel, looking around at the luxurious surroundings. Isel excitedly shows her mother the new dresses and jewels, exclaiming that Lisa and the maids prepared them, to Diana's surprise. With a bright smile, Isel explains she'll wear these for now but will get custom ones for her debut, resolving to write her grandfather a thank you letter. Overcome with emotion, Diana pulls her daughter into a warm and loving embrace. Isel tells her mother that the lessons to become a lady weren't so bad because her anger at Catherine and Alicia motivated her to succeed. Diana's eyes fill with guilt as she thinks with regret about not having protected Isel in the past. In a tender moment surrounded by flowers, Diana hugs Isel tightly, cherishing her daughter. Milan, the maid with short blonde hair, smiles brightly. Milan approaches Diana and Isel in the hallway, and Diana turns to ask what she needs. The scene shifts to a memory of a hand reaching out to touch a delicate pink rose in a garden. In the rose garden, the man with long red hair, Sir Ruari, smiles softly as he holds a single rose. The scene transitions to the Grand Duke's vast and lonely office, where Calypso sits pensively at his desk. Knock, knock. Isel stands outside the grand doors, announcing her presence to her father. Calypso looks up from his work with a cold, impassive expression. Hearing it's Isel, Calypso thinks about the rumors of Catherine's mistreatment of the girl, finding her visit troublesome before telling her to come in. As Isel enters the grand office, Calypso curtly tells her to keep it brief because he's busy. Isel hesitates for a moment, looking small as she walks across the enormous room toward his desk. Looking up timidly, a nervous blush on her cheeks, Isel appears slightly intimidated. Calypso looks down at her and asks why her mother isn't with her. Isel explains that her mother is busy with lessons and that Catherine is still acting awkward around her. With a sweet, innocent smile, Isel closes her eyes happily. Calypso looks slightly taken aback, a bead of sweat on his face as he observes her. A bright, sunny day illuminates the magnificent estate. Calypso and Isel walk together down a long, sunlit hallway. Their footsteps echo quietly as they walk side by side. Looking up at her father, Isel tells him that every day with him is a joy. They approach a beautiful garden with a grand glass gazebo. A vision of Isel twirling blissfully in a sunny field of yellow flowers fills the screen. Calypso quietly acknowledges her words, thinking to himself how different Isel is from Catherine. He internally observes that Isel has impeccable manners and grace, yet retains a sense of purity and innocence. A flashback shows Calypso speaking with Alicia, lamenting the loss of Diana's child. In his memory, Calypso walks down a dark hall, thinking that if Diana's child had lived, she might have resembled Isel. Isel's voice calling, "Father?" snaps Calypso out of his thoughts with a start. Noticing his distraction, Isel asks if he's all right, but he quickly dismisses her concern. Isel pushes open a set of doors, announcing their arrival. Standing inside her lavishly redecorated room, Isel asks her father for his opinion. The camera pans over the new, ornate furniture that now fills the space. Calypso looks around in astonishment, stammering in his thoughts at the sheer expense of it all. Isel stands beside him, a quiet, satisfied smile on her face. The elegant title of the story is displayed against a crystalline background. Realizing she's late, Diana picks up her skirts and begins to run through the garden. "Goodness, I'm late for class," she thinks frantically. Panting, Diana rushes through the garden, looking worried. She spots the red-haired man in the distance and calls out, "Ruairi," who turns in surprise. Ruairi breaks into a wide, happy smile upon seeing her. Apologizing for being late, Diana missteps, her ankle twisting awkwardly in her boot. With a gasp, she loses her balance and tumbles forward through the air. Her eyes are squeezed shut as she braces for the painful impact of the fall. Thud. Ruairi catches her just in time, and Diana lets out a sigh of relief in his arms. Ruairi holds a startled Diana in his arms, his finger gently touching a golden butterfly ornament near her face. A bright red blush spreads across Diana's face as she looks up, flustered by the close proximity. With a gentle smile, Ruairi asks if she's hurt, noting that her face is all red. Diana pulls away, insisting she's fine and apologizing again for being late, but Ruairi playfully asks if something was more important than him. Holding his hand, Diana explains that she kind of got a daughter, an adopted girl who looks just like her. Shocked, Ruairi asks for clarification as Diana smiles brightly, adding that she plans to teach her new daughter magic. After a moment of silence, Ruairi smiles warmly, saying her daughter must be adorable and that she must introduce them sometime. The scene shifts to a beautiful, sunlit garden gazebo surrounded by vibrant flowers. A gentle breeze rustles through the leaves of the trees on a bright, sunny day. The view moves to a training ground, focusing on a wooden practice dummy. Belinda, the maid with light blue hair, stands panting in the training yard, holding a sword. With a smooth motion, she sheathes her sword. Wiping her brow, Belinda decides it's time to start heading out from her training. Back in the garden, Ruairi covers his mouth, trying to stifle a laugh. Ha ha ha! Ruairi bursts out laughing at Diana's magical attempt with ice needles as a flustered Diana tells him not to make fun of her. As Ruairi agrees to try again, Belinda approaches from behind, announcing her presence to the Grand Duchess. Belinda approaches with a slight smile, asking if Diana is still in her class. Ruairi turns around, with a sharp gasp of surprise upon seeing Belinda. With a shocked expression, Ruairi stammers out, "You!" Belinda addresses Ruairi by name, confirming his identity as he says her name, Belinda, while a confused Diana asks if they know each other. Belinda explains to Diana that she's from an orphanage in the Marquisate, and sometimes orphanages from the same region hold joint events. She continues, explaining that Ruairi was a friend she met at one of those events. As Diana asks what the name of his orphanage was, Belinda announces that Ruairi was from the Angeline orphanage, while Ruairi looks away nervously, and Diana watches with clasped hands. Diana's eyes widen in shock as she repeats the name of the orphanage. In her memory, Diana recalls frequenting that area, but never seeing Ruairi there. Back in the present, Diana stares intently at Ruairi. With a cold, questioning look, Diana silently asks him, "Why?" Ugh, Ruairi and Belinda both flinch as a pained sound escapes from near them. "Your Grace." Diana clutches her head, her face contorted in pain from a sudden headache. Apologizing for another headache, Diana stumbles as Belinda rushes to her side, telling her to lean on her. Ruairi instructs Belinda to escort her carefully. Belinda gently supports Diana, guiding her slowly as Ruairi watches with concern from a distance. Belinda leads Diana away down a beautiful path arched with red roses. Ruairi watches them go, his expression filled with deep concern as he thinks, "My lady." In a flashback, she holds up a dark patterned jacket, asking the boy if he likes it. The young boy looks down at the jacket with disdain, asking, "Just this?" as the woman apologizes, wishing she could buy him something better. In a grand, empty hall under the moonlight, the boy thinks of his noble blood, questioning how a grand duchy could appear in something so cheap. He furiously clutches the jacket in his hand. He throws the cheap outfit to the floor, amidst scattered money and jewels. A vision of an older, silver-haired man surrounded by wealth reveals that his grandfather, the emperor's illegitimate son, indulged in luxury, leaving massive debts. The narration explains that poverty was inherited, and the family fortune dwindled. Even after inheriting the title of Grand Duke, he couldn't resolve the debt, recalling the misery of being a poor noble. Two noblewomen gossip, one mentioning a new orphanage is being built. They credit the Saintess of Pereshte, whose kindness is said to make angels weep, for the good deeds. The man's monologue reveals that the moment he saw the famous Diana, he was sure of something. A beautiful Diana in a green dress appears as the man's thought concludes, "That I could use her." A younger Calypso stares with a cold, determined expression. The scene transitions to the grand, sunlit architecture of a palace. White doves fly peacefully across a bright blue sky. A memory of their wedding day shows Diana and Calypso walking down the aisle together. In a flashback, a younger Calypso recalls how the marriage dowry from Diana's family saved him from his financial struggles and allowed him to start a new business. Calypso's memory sours as he recalls how Diana's father, the Marquis, meddled in everything, making even the pretense of loving Diana unbearable. His monologue concludes with a flashback to his younger self, thinking with disgust about those born into wealth and privilege. Back in the present, Isel proudly asks Calypso for his opinion on her newly decorated room, and he agrees that it's wonderful. Isel turns to show him something else as he follows her deeper into the room. She excitedly presents her father with a handful of glittering jewels and pearls. With a happy blush, Isel asks if they're pretty, admitting she's never received such fine things before. Calypso's expression hardens as he questions if she has truly never been given gifts like these. In a private conversation, Diana asks Isel if something is true, and Isel replies with disdain that she doesn't even want to call her former guardian father. Diana listens with a cool, determined gaze. Isel asks in disbelief if her former guardian truly betrayed her mother for money. With a hand that slightly trembles, Diana reaches for her teacup and confirms that he did. Diana coldly predicts that Calypso will lose his mind when he sees the gifts Isel received from her real grandfather. She explains that his reaction will be due to his deep-seated empathetic inferiority complex. Isel, with a cunning smile, declares she will devise a new plan to manipulate Calypso and asks for her mother's help. Returning to Isel and Calypso, he questions her story, stating the Marquis family shouldn't be poor, but she clarifies that only applies to the main family branch. Tears well up in Isel's eyes as she clutches the jewelry, describing the misery of being a poor noble to whom everything is new. Calypso looks down at her, his expression softening with a hint of sympathy. His mind flashes back to his own youth, remembering himself huddled alone in a dark room, feeling the same poverty and despair. Isel gently touches his arm, telling him with a small laugh that she's okay now. She explains tearfully that because he and Diana took her in, she was finally able to receive such gifts from the main house. Looking at her with newfound understanding, Calypso quietly admits he was unaware of her difficult circumstances. As they walk down the hall, Calypso gently pats her head while she asks if they can walk together every day, a request he readily accepts. "Wow!" Isel exclaims, overjoyed, as Calypso watches her with a warm smile. The scene shifts to Diana in her bedroom, where a maid has just delivered a package. As Belinda stands by, Diana sits in bed with the box, murmuring the word, "Father." Whoosh! She opens the box, and a glowing blue orb magically floats into the air. The orb shines brightly as a man's voice calls out, asking if Diana can hear him. A magical projection of her father appears, and Diana gasps his name in surprise. A quick flashback shows a much younger Diana in her pajamas, marveling at the magical communication device. Her father, seen in his study, explains to his younger daughter's projection that sending a normal letter would have been a hassle for her. He continues, stating he had to disguise his secret messages as ordinary greetings. Returning to the present, Diana smiles with fond amusement. Her father's projection announces that the item she requested is finally ready. In his study, Diana's father rummages through scrolls on his desk. He holds up a potted plant with a glowing purple flower, explaining it's a magical herb created by combining laurel and bender herbs. Diana's eyes widen as she hears the news. A sly, knowing smile spreads across Diana's face as she thoughtfully repeats the herb's name, Laurel Bender. The scene shifts to Calypso, who now sits opposite Diana with a serious, questioning look. Diana calmly faces her husband across the table in the sitting room. Diana casually mentions Alicia's recent absence, privately thinking that the new, watchful servants are likely keeping her away. She then asks Calypso about their financial situation, to which he replies that it is stable but stagnant. His eyes narrow as he asks why she's inquiring, wondering if they are short on funds. Diana leans forward conspiratorially, telling him she has a secret to share. She reveals her father is preparing a new business venture, and Calypso is visibly surprised at the news. Diana explains that her father has discovered a new elixir, a purple flower with powerful pain-relieving properties effective against all illnesses. She sits back with a confident smile and announces the elixir is called Laurel Bender. A flashback shows Calypso in despair over his failed businesses, recalling how he only barely survived a financial crisis after their marriage. Back in the present, Calypso realizes that a business opportunity from the powerful Marquis of Pereshte is a massive discovery. Consumed by greed, Calypso thinks about monopolizing the new elixir and desperately wonders how he can obtain it. Diana smirks to herself, knowing that a man like Calypso would inevitably take the bait she laid for him. With her back to Calypso, Diana walks away from the table. As she walks, Diana confidently reassures him not to worry, because she is on his side. Leaning in with a beguiling smile, Diana promises to get the precious laurel bender seeds for him. Calypso stares after her, momentarily stunned as he murmurs her name. Overcome with emotion, Calypso pulls Diana into a tight, grateful embrace. Later, Diana uses the magical communication orb and asks her father about the true effects of the laurel bender. Her father's voice explains the horrifying truth. It's a poisonous plant that causes addiction and hallucinations, capable of creating immense tragedy. A serious projection of Diana's father confirms the grave danger of the plant. Back with Calypso, Diana hugs him and declares her love, saying she's glad she can help him. As she embraces him, Diana's expression turns cold, thinking what a foolish man he is, and how he will now deceive everyone just as he once deceived her. The scene shifts to a nighttime view of the grand, brightly lit Ernst estate. In her chambers, Diana thoughtfully touches her cheek, lost in her own plans. Diana surveys her alchemy ingredients, realizing she's out of key components and needs to restock. She chides herself for being too busy to notice her dwindling supplies. Opening her cabinet, Diana decides to stock up generously, wary of what Alicia might attempt next. Maid's voice confirms her request from off-screen as the scene shows a sunny sky through the trees. Diana stands before Milan and the head maid, instructing them to prepare for an outing. As a hand selects potions from the cabinet, a voice asks where they're going, and Diana replies that she needs to buy things in the city center. Milan excitedly declares she'll dress Diana beautifully, eager to show off her improved skills. When Diana asks about her excitement, one of the maids explains that it's been a while since she has gone out. Diana smiles gently, deciding to buy her two maids their favorite desserts as a treat. The scene transitions to a sprawling, picturesque town with a castle overlooking it. An elegant carriage drawn by white horses makes its way down a cobblestone street. The carriage comes to a stop as Diana offers her thanks. Diana steps out of the carriage, dressed in a beautiful blue gown and a stylish white hat. She walks purposefully through the bustling town square toward a large brick building. Clang! As she approaches the shop with ornate banners, a voice calls out a welcome. Inside, Diana examines a bottle containing a large, beautiful purification crystal. She holds up the bottle, observing that the crystal inside is much larger than the ones she typically receives. With a determined gaze, she decides to buy all of them, knowing how many crystals her potion making requires. Looking around the busy magic shop, Diana hopes to also find a flame crystal. A woman in black heels takes a step across the shop floor. Diana struggles to reach a high shelf, noting the bottles are just out of her grasp. Suddenly, another hand reaches past hers and grabs a red potion from the shelf, startling her. A cloaked man with long red hair now stands beside her, holding the potion he just took. He turns to Diana and apologizes, revealing himself to be Ruairi. Flustered, Diana recognizes Ruairi and asks what he's doing there. Ruairi laughs, explaining that it's perfectly normal for a mage to visit a magic shop. He explains that he ran out of ingredients during an experiment and apologizes for his disheveled appearance. He gestures with a charming smile, and Diana replies that she understands. Ruairi kindly takes her basket and asks what she came to purchase. Diana thoughtfully lists the items on her shopping list: mermaid's tears, sunset sand, and scale powder. Ruairi informs her that the ingredients she seeks are located on the second floor. He offers his hand to guide her, and a surprised Diana asks if he's coming with her. Diana's eyes widen, and she blushes as Ruairi cheekily replies that someone has to help her if she can't reach something again. Ruairi gently leads the blushing Diana up the staircase by her hand. The second floor of the shop is lined with shelves of books and magical components. Other patrons quietly browse the wares on the upper level of the store. As she and Ruairi walk through the bustling magic shop, Diana silently marvels at how beautiful it all is. Diana looks around in awe as Ruairi says he's glad he came in person, prompting her to turn to him curiously. Holding a potion, she explains that she usually receives ingredients by mail and got lost in the wonder of her first visit. Ruairi smiles and says he feels the same way, while she admires the intricate bottle in her hand. He then points out the shelf for Mermaid's Tears, noting that it looks like there's only one left. Diana reaches for the last box of the precious ingredient. Thump! At the exact same moment, a portly man with a mustache places his hand on the box, startling Diana. Diana politely asks the man if she could have the ingredient, assuming he isn't in a hurry. The mustached man glares at her, coldly stating that he picked it up first. With a hand to her chest, Diana pleads with him, explaining how desperately she needs that specific ingredient. In a flash of anger, the man violently shoves Diana away from the counter. With furious energy, he shouts that he already told her he picked it up first. "Ah, no," Diana cries out as she stumbles backward, completely caught off guard. The man repeats his angry declaration as Diana is sent flying from the force of his push. Witnessing the assault, Ruairi's expression instantly hardens into one of cold fury. He lunges forward to intervene. Catching the falling Diana, Ruairi cries out her title as she lets out a pained groan. Ruairi glares daggers at the mustached man, who stares back with smug defiance. Ruairi furiously confronts the man, demanding to know what he was thinking and yelling that he could have seriously hurt Diana. He points out that Diana found the item first and sternly demands the man hand it over, while a shaken Diana murmurs his name. Diana tries to de-escalate the situation, telling Ruairi that she's fine and they should just go. Her eyes widen as she realizes the confrontation is far from over. The mustached man scoffs at Ruairi, contemptuously asking who this beggar is and if he came to beg for scraps. The surrounding shoppers begin to murmur amongst themselves, their attention drawn to the escalating conflict. Ruairi's eyes narrow as he commands the man to apologize, but the man simply scoffs, "What?" Diana steps forward with resolve, stating that she can endure the man shouting at her. "But," she declares, looking fiercely at the man, "insulting Ruairi is something I can't tolerate," leaving Ruairi momentarily stunned, her voice ringing with authority. Diana glares at the man and commands him to apologize right now. The mustached man finds her demand laughable, letting out a dismissive scoff. "What's wrong with calling a beggar?" he sneers, causing Diana's eyes to flash with a cold, dangerous light. Ruairi tries to calm her down, insisting he's fine, but Diana's focus remains fixed on their antagonist. He gently touches her face, telling her that people like this man should be paid back in kind, which seems to confuse her. Stepping between Diana and the man, Ruairi addresses the noble, confirming that he is from the Grand Duchy. The man arrogantly puffs out his chest, declaring he's a baron and in a completely different class from a dim-witted beggar. A sly smile plays on Ruairi's lips as he asks why, then, the baron doesn't recognize who he is with. The baron looks utterly baffled, a question mark appearing in his mind as he stares blankly. Ruairi gestures dramatically to Diana, announcing her true identity, her grace, the Grand Duchess of the Ernst Grand Duchy. He twists the knife, adding that she's of a completely different class from a fool who lacks any dignity, causing the baron to recoil in shock. Diana meets his gaze with an icy stare, and the terrified baron thinks he recognizes those intimidating eyes. He has a flashback to the Imperial Palace ball, where he saw a beautiful woman with golden hair dancing in the sunlight. The memory continues, recalling her title, "The Saintess even angels weep over." Struck with absolute horror and sweating profusely, the baron wonders if Diana could possibly be that same woman. As if answering his thoughts, Diana takes her hat and confirms his fear, stating that she is indeed the Grand Duchess of this territory. With regal authority, she announces her full name and title, Diana El Pereste. The baron collapses to the floor, desperately begging for forgiveness for his rudeness and failure to recognize her. Diana looks down on the groveling man and states that her demand remains the same. He must apologize to Ruairi. She then reveals Ruairi's full title, Ruairi de Constantine, the next candidate for Master of the Magic Tower, and the baron's face turns ashen with terror. Throwing himself into a full bow on the ground, the man frantically screams apologies to Lord Ruairi. He continues to prostrate himself, begging both the Grand Duchess and Lord Ruairi for their forgiveness. Finally, the baron holds out the box of Mermaid's Tears, pleading for them to take it and apologizing for his stubbornness. With a strained smile, Diana offers a gesture of apology. She stands over the shocked Baron, who is now kneeling before her, and advises him to stop judging others by their appearance. With a look of contempt, she calls him a disgrace to the Empire for a noble. In a flashback, Diana reflects that for her and Ruairi, their core identities remained unchanged. She recalls how the Baron's attitude immediately shifted upon learning she was a Grand Duchess and Ruairi the next Tower Master, wondering why people are so superficial. As they walk away, leaving the man groveling on the floor, she concludes that a person's worth is not determined by their status. The scene transitions to a sunlit town square, peaceful and quiet. Two white doves peck at the cobblestones as an unseen person calls out, "My lady." The voice calls out again as the view pans across the empty street. Diana and Ruairi walk together across a stone bridge in the town. A close-up shows the elegant golden eagle crest embroidered on the hem of Diana's dress. Turning to Ruairi, Diana apologizes for her unpleasant behavior, admitting her anger at people like the Baron. Ruairi smiles warmly, reassuring her it wasn't unpleasant, and noting with amusement that she actually gave him the item. As expected, he thinks to himself while looking at the sunset over the town. They stand together in the street, Diana now holding a shopping bag. A puzzled expression crosses Diana's face as she wonders why Ruairi speaks as if he's known her for a long time. She looks at him and asks what he really is, but he just smiles mysteriously. With a charming grin, Ruairi places a hand on her shoulder and asks where they should go next. Surprised, Diana watches as he points out it's been a while since they were out together. He playfully suggests she should go on a date with a handsome younger man, but she laughs and asks him to wait. Checking her compact mirror, Diana apologizes, realizing it's late and that she must go. Ruairi looks disappointed, but accepts her departure, as she promises they can go out together next time. She insists that he must go on a date with her for sure next time, and he smiles in agreement. He gently takes her hand, promising her that he will. Elsewhere, the maid Milan hums happily as she walks down a grand, sunlit corridor. Still humming, she reaches out to open a set of large double doors. She gasps in surprise at what she finds inside the room. Startled, Milan sees Diana standing by the window, surrounded by a faint red aura, and wonders when she returned. Haha! Diana laughs, explaining to the flustered maid that she ran into someone. Looking up wistfully, Diana clarifies that it wasn't just anyone. The scene shifts to Ruairi, standing atop a building, looking out over the city as the sun sets. His expression is calm and thoughtful as Diana's narration concludes, "A very good person." The scene changes to a bright room where Catherine sits at a table across from a blonde tutor. The tutor calmly discusses the profound sorrow of a parent watching their own child die. Calling it a bitter fate, the tutor sips her tea as she continues her lecture. She dismisses it as just another pain to be endured, causing Catherine to clutch her throat in distress. Catherine suddenly chokes, covering her mouth as she coughs violently. The tutor advises her to stop if it hurts, noting that her voice has grown hoarse. Surprised, Catherine remarks that she's never been allowed a break before, but the tutor simply says she is concerned about the Duchess of Iberg. The tutor reveals that the Duchess places great importance on one's voice, leaving Catherine utterly shocked. "Don't tell me you didn't know?" the tutor asks, as Catherine furiously insists she was never told. An ornate title card introduces the current Duchess of House Iberg, Serena. Serena, a woman with long dark hair, is shown surrounded by music, which she is said to have loved most among all the arts. In a flashback from before Diana's regression, a younger Catherine was assigned a music teacher to curry favor with the Duchess. Diana's past self recalls that she arranged this because she genuinely wanted Catherine to marry Lord Sawyer. Snap back to the present, Catherine stares at her mother's reflection in her teacup and cries out. Fired up with sudden determination, Catherine points at herself with a fierce expression. She dismisses concerns about her heavy schedule, declaring that she wants to win the Duchess's favor no matter what. The tutor agrees to call a music teacher if needed, but states she has one condition. With a serene, closed-eyed smile, the tutor holds her teacup, ready to state her terms. The scene transitions, showing a soft focus on elegant white roses. Huh? Catherine looks up in shock, questioning a proposal involving her sister and Isel. Diana coolly tells Catherine that she doesn't have to agree, prompting a reluctant Catherine to say she'll do it. Diana praises Catherine for growing up, but internally scoffs at the idea of her learning music and hopes she gets surpassed by the real one. In a flashback, Catherine is being bullied by a blonde girl in front of Lord Sawyer, but resolves to endure it for his sake. Holding a gold coin, Diana decides it's time for them to leave. Diana turns to Catherine and gently suggests they go for a walk together. "Yes, mother," Catherine replies enthusiastically as she follows Diana away from the table. The scene shifts to a sunny day at a beautiful, ornate gazebo in a garden. Isel, wearing a yellow dress, walks alone through a sun-dappled garden path. With a serious expression, Isel gazes forward, her thoughts hidden. A voice calls out her name, Isel, as the camera focuses on her determined green eye. Isel turns to see a silver-haired man approaching and happily calls out Father. Beaming with joy, she tells him that she's been waiting for him. The silver-haired man asks if she waited long, and she replies that the time flew by because she was so happy. When he asks if she was happy, she gushes about how excited she was for their walk. With a gentle smile, the man takes her hand and says, "Let's go." They stroll together down a picturesque garden path, surrounded by flowers and butterflies. Isel comments on the lovely scent of the flowers, and he agrees that it brings a sense of peace. As they rest on a bench, the man internally marvels that Isel can be so delighted by a simple walk, without needing jewels or dresses. He thinks how lovely she is, and wonders how such a child could have been neglected at home. Curious, he turns to Isel and asks how she ended up in an orphanage. Isel explains with feigned sadness that her parents didn't get along, and her biological father sent her away. She adds that her father hated her all his life, simply because she looked just like her mother. She recalls him wanting to kill her, which visibly startles the silver-haired man. Clearing his throat, the man changes the subject, asking about her relationship with her mother. Isel's eyes sadden as she explains her mother died early because her father hated her so much. He killed her, she concludes, leaving the man speechless and horrified. As her intense green eye fills the frame, she inwardly thinks, "That was you who did it." The man stammers in disbelief while Isel calmly notes that it's an unusual situation. She continues her story, adding that her father planned to kill his wife for money. As he questions the motive, Isel touches a rose and specifies that her mother was a Pereshte, killed for her fortune. The man condemns the act as wicked, and Isel explains her father ultimately just abandoned her at the orphanage. With tears in her eyes, she looks up at him and asks plaintively, "I'm really a bad child, aren't I?" Thump. The pink rose she was holding falls from her hand onto the grass. The silver-haired man gently comforts Isel, assuring her that it's the adults who are bad, not her. Isel looks up at him with a hidden smirk as he thinks about Alicia's plan to kill Diana, convincing himself he did nothing wrong. Isel thanks him and leans into his embrace, while Diana and Catherine watch the scene unfold from a distance. Catherine's face twists into a furious, hateful scowl as she witnesses the intimate moment. From behind a curtain, Catherine screams for her father, demanding to know what he's doing. "Kaya!" Catherine rushes forward and violently shoves Isel away from the man. "Get away!" Catherine screams, her rage directed entirely at a stunned Isel. Standing between them, Catherine furiously demands to know why Isel is with her father. The silver-haired man sternly grabs Catherine's arm, shouting her name and asking what she's doing. He asks why she's angry about a father and daughter taking a walk, to which Catherine sneers, "Father and daughter? Who?" The man tries to de-escalate, suggesting they all take walks together from now on, while Isel looks on sadly. He gently tells Catherine that Isel has done nothing wrong. Close to tears, Catherine looks at her father and asks how she could possibly not be angry. With her head bowed in despair, she tearfully reminds him that he was always too busy to ever go on a walk with her. Clutching the ribbon on her dress, a crying Catherine furiously asks why he would go with that filthy thing who crawled out of nowhere. Whack! A sharp slap echoes through the garden as someone cries out in pain. The silver-haired man glares down at a tearful, red-cheeked Catherine, warning her not to test his patience. The scene flashes to a bright, sun-drenched sky, signaling a shift in time. In a moment before the confrontation, Catherine walks with Diana, remarking on the perfect weather as Diana agrees. Catherine's steps falter as she comes to an abrupt halt on the garden path. Snapping back to the present, the silver-haired man furiously demands to know what Catherine thinks she's doing. Sobbing, Catherine repeats her bitter question, asking why her father would choose to walk with the wretched thing that crawled in from who knows where. With everyone watching, the silver-haired man coldly tells Catherine she's had enough, unless she wants to test the limits of his patience. Trembling, Catherine holds a hand to her face and asks her father in disbelief how he could do this to her. The silver-haired man callously remarks that his wife has spoiled Catherine, leading to her arrogance, and Diana deceptively agrees that it's all her fault. Watching the drama unfold, Isel covers her mouth with her hand in feigned shock. Isel maintains her shocked expression but inwardly scoffs at Diana, thinking, "Foolish woman." Catherine lunges toward Isel, screaming that she'll kill her, but her father holds her back, yelling at her to stop. He tells Isel they should go before she is dishonored, and they walk away together, leaving a devastated Catherine watching them leave. Later, Catherine lies weeping on her bed, completely overwhelmed. A knock sounds at the door, and Catherine sits up, hopefully wondering if her father has come to apologize. Alicia bursts into the room, angrily shouting Catherine's name and demanding to know how many times she must be told to control her emotions. Tears streaming down her face, Catherine defiantly tells her mother not to raise her voice at her. Lashing out, Catherine declares she hates all of them, her father, Isel, and her mother, Alicia, leaving Alicia to murmur her name in response. Sobbing into her hands, Catherine wonders what has become of her, lamenting that if only her mother had been the real Grand Duchess instead of a fraud. She tearfully questions Alicia, asking why she couldn't become the Grand Duchess and was born the daughter of a powerless baron. Alicia stands silently as the background behind her appears to shatter like broken glass. In a flashback, a young Alicia with braided orange hair wonders why she was born into such a poor household. The scene shows the modest, two-story house where she grew up. A much younger Alicia complains to her father that he has no money and can't even afford a new dress for her, and he apologizes, calling her Ali. The narration explains this was when she was around 10 years old. Alicia recalls that her incompetent father's only source of pride was his connection to the Marquess of Pereste. Because of that connection, she received her very first invitation to the Grand Marquisate estate. A distinguished blonde-haired man is seen approaching as a voice greets someone named Bert. The blonde-haired man, the Marquess, formally welcomes Bert. Alicia's father, Lord Blair, urges his daughter to greet the Marquess, and she formally introduces herself as Alicia R. Blair. The Marquess pleasantly welcomes them both and invites them to have a seat. Alicia recalls being unable to tear her eyes away from the dazzling splendor of the estate. She remembers how everything, from the garden to the furniture, was of the finest quality. While captivated by the exquisite desserts, she heard a graceful voice call out. The voice calls, father, as Alicia nibbles on a cookie. A radiant young girl with long blonde hair and bright green eyes appears, full of life and joy. Alicia stares, completely taken aback by the other girl's vibrant presence. The blonde girl walks past the tea table with her father, the Marquess, and greets Alicia's father, Lord Blair. Alicia inwardly scoffs at her father, bowing to a girl her age, thinking he has no pride, before he instructs her to offer her own greeting. Alicia reluctantly greets Lady Pereste, introducing herself as Alicia of the Blair barony. The young Lady Pereste's eyes sparkle with excitement as she exclaims, "Wow." She clasps her hands together, beaming with pure, unadulterated happiness. Lady Pereste eagerly asks her father if she can take Lady Blair to her room to play, and he happily agrees to send refreshments. Later, in a bright and airy room, Alicia thanks Lady Pereste for the invitation, who happily replies it's the first time she's had a visitor her age. Lady Pereste explains her father has spoken highly of Lord Blair, making her curious to meet his daughter. She expresses her delight at finally meeting Alicia, who can only quietly reply while thinking how much larger this room is than her own. Lady Pereste looks at Alicia with curious, wide green eyes. Leaning forward with a friendly smile, she asks Alicia, "May I call you by your name?" Alicia pauses mid-sip, her expression unreadable as she holds her teacup. With a faint, knowing smirk, Alicia places a hand over her heart. Sob, sob, sob. The sound of weeping fills the air as a sniffle echoes over scattered documents. In a flashback, a young Diana comforts a crying Alicia, asking if she's giving up on enrollment over tuition and promising to cover all her expenses. Looking at her friend with pity, Diana's kindness is framed by Alicia's cold narration. She was an exceptionally easy mark. Alicia recalls that while her father left her nothing of value but a gravestone, he did leave her with the saint, blessed by the gods, Diana. A divine hooded figure is depicted cradling a glowing, miniature Diana, symbolizing her blessed nature. As young Alicia feigns tears in an embrace, her narration reveals that a few crocodile tears were all it took to sway Diana's naive heart. Alicia recounts how Diana eagerly bought her the finest dresses and jewels for every high society event. At a grand ball, Diana proudly gestures to the crowd, preparing to introduce her dearest friend. A floral title card announces the name, Lady Alicia R. Blair. Dressed in a striking red gown, Alicia remembers how Diana took her everywhere in high society. Silhouetted figures of noble women represent the exclusive circles Diana brought her into. When Diana offers to lend her another dress, Alicia feigns reluctance, but Diana warmly insists she not be silly. Diana firmly grasps Alicia's hands, reminding her of a past promise. As Diana reassures a tearful Alicia, Alicia's narration reveals her true thoughts. Diana was the most useful and reliable shield she could have. Feigning gratitude, Alicia internally scoffs at her own father and vows to wring every last ounce of use from Diana for the rest of her life. A flash of glittering jewelry appears as a triumphant, maniacal laugh rings out. Ha ha ha, hoo ha ha ha. The wicked laughter continues, echoing with malice. Lying back, Alicia cackles with glee, mocking the stupid Diana she so easily manipulated. Ha 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 ha. Her face is contorted in a final burst of deranged laughter. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand estate, under a heavy, gray downpour. The rain gives way to a bright, sunny day, focusing on a beautiful garden fountain surrounded by white daisies. The scene returns to the present day, where Diana, her hair in a ponytail, feigns confusion, asking what is being said. A speech bubble erupts with a single, shocked word. Marriage? In a past memory, Alicia stares in disbelief from across a table at a younger Diana. Diana calmly explains that it's a political marriage, and Alicia immediately asks who her fiancé is. A close-up shows Diana's radiant, happy smile. She nervously touches the lace collar of her dress. Alicia asks with slight apprehension if she has ever met the man. Diana closes her eyes and smiles, reassuring Alicia that he's a good man who promised to always care for and respect her. A grand coat of arms is displayed, featuring a two-headed eagle, lions, and crossed swords. Alicia scoffs internally, dismissing noble love stories, and cynically betting Diana's fiancé is ugly and pathetic. With a condescending smile, Alicia sips her tea, musing that one day she might actually feel sorry for Diana. In a memory, Diana tells Ali she's about to introduce her to the man she mentioned, causing Alicia to look up with a grim expression. Diana presents her friend to a man, saying, "Your Grace, this is my dearest friend, Viscountess Alicia LeBlair." A man's voice greets her, saying, "It's a pleasure to meet Viscountess Blair." The man is revealed to be the handsome, silver-haired Calypso, prompting Diana's inner thought about how hard she prayed for this moment. Instantly smitten, a blushing Alicia wishes that Diana's fiancé would become hers. With a slight curtsy, Alicia formally introduces herself to His Grace Calypso. Calypso gently asks Diana if her trip was troublesome, but she smiles, saying it was nothing since she was coming to see him. He tenderly lifts her chin, and she giggles that he flatters her. Watching the affectionate couple, a shadow falls over Alicia's face as she realizes she is an outsider in a world she doesn't belong to. From off-screen, a voice calls out, "Your Grace," beneath a glittering chandelier. Diana and Calypso sit together on a sofa, looking perfectly content with one another. Calypso agrees to her request, saying, "If that's what you wish," as Alicia listens in silence, her expression hardening. Alicia announces that the carriage is late and she will go check on it, using it as an excuse to leave. Diana stops her, insisting the guest shouldn't have to check and that she will go instead. Encouraging them to continue their conversation, Diana gracefully excuses herself from the room. Diana now stands alone in the vast, empty hall, facing a pair of ornate double doors. Alicia smirks knowingly, having figured that Diana would leave the room herself. The scene transitions to a peaceful, sunlit forest where a white dove rests on a branch. In a parlor with Calypso, Alicia fans her neck, commenting that the room is getting warm. She strikes a graceful pose, a subtle, confident smile on her face as she looks toward him. Feigning discomfort from the heat, Alicia asks if she may open the window. With an indifferent expression, Calypso gives her permission to go ahead. Alicia turns and walks across the room as Calypso watches from the sofa. "Ah!" she suddenly cries out, stumbling as if her ankle twisted. Calypso catches her in his arms, asking if she is all right, and she looks up at him, softly replying that she is. Thanking him for his help, Alicia asks for forgiveness while her inner monologue reveals her true desire. She wanted him. A flashback shows Alicia clenching her fist as she watches Diana and Calypso, her narration admitting she couldn't distinguish jealousy from love. She recalls knowing that causing a scene would backfire, especially since Calypso always ensured she was present when Diana happily called for her. Alicia's narration clarifies that Calypso was merely using Diana as an excuse to get closer to her. In the past, Alicia is shown trailing behind the happy couple, Diana and Calypso. Believing men are drawn to women's bodies, Alicia recalls leaving subtle traces of her presence for Calypso while deceiving a naive Diana. The scene shifts to an idyllic view of the grand mansion on a beautiful day. In a past memory, a younger Diana looks down with a troubled expression at a small box on a table. Diana explains to Alicia that the box contains His Grace's seal for the wedding preparations, which he accidentally left behind. As Diana worries that the seal is too important for a servant to handle, Alicia feigns concern, thinking, "Oh no, you," with a sigh. Diana realizes she must cancel her afternoon plans to deal with the matter. She closes her book with a decisive snap. Alicia quickly interjects, volunteering to take the seal to Calypso herself. Although Diana refuses, not wanting to trouble her, Alicia insists it's fine and says she can use the mana tunnel for a quick trip. Diana takes Alicia's hands, her expression one of gratitude and concern. A close-up shows Diana looking at Alicia, still holding the book containing the seal. Seated in her carriage, Alicia promises to take good care of the seal, while Diana thanks her from outside. Diana stands alone in the sunlit drive, watching the ornate carriage pull away. Smiling to herself, Diana thinks how wonderful it is to have a friend like Allie. Inside the carriage, Alicia looks down at the box with a sinister, triumphant smirk. Night falls on the grand estate, now bathed in the light of a crescent moon. An attendant sets a cup of hot beverage on the table. A brown-haired man asks Calypso what he thinks of his fiancée, the famed saint of Pereshte. Calypso dismisses the question with a cold look, stating that political marriages are simply loveless arrangements. The man laughs at Calypso's cold demeanor, but Calypso explains it's a necessary evil to secure the Marquis's support. As Calypso expresses his discomfort with playing a role, a servant's voice announces that Viscountess Blair has arrived. Calypso's expression shifts to one of surprise as he questions her unexpected visit. The brown-haired man politely excuses himself, sensing the guest is important, and Calypso bids him farewell. Alicia gracefully enters the room. She performs a perfect curtsy, formally greeting His Grace. Calypso questions her visit, and Alicia explains that Diana is busy with wedding preparations. Presenting the box, Alicia says she came to return the seal he left behind. Calypso thanks her and takes the box from her hands. In a bold move, Alicia leans into him, pressing herself against his chest. A flustered Calypso asks what she is doing, and she calmly reveals that she heard everything. Holding him close, she smiles and repeats that she overheard what he said earlier. Her thoughts echo with victorious clarity, confirming she heard his true feelings. She recalls his private confession, that his marriage is a loveless political arrangement to gain support. A dark, triumphant smile spreads across Alicia's face as she realizes the sweetness he shows Diana is an act, thinking, "He's just like me." Calypso asks if she plans to tell Diana everything, but she slyly reassures him she won't reveal the whole truth. Taking his hands, Alicia confesses she fell for him at first sight and asks if he feels the same, but he glares back, demanding to know what she truly wants. In a flashback, Alicia professes to a man with silver hair that all she wants is his love. The silver-haired man looks down at her with a contemplative expression. A wax seal stamp clatters to the floor as the man smiles faintly. The narration explains that on that night, Alicia and the man embraced and became one. Alicia's flashback continues, revealing that she and Calypso soon made plans to kill Diana, with him eagerly joining in, and her first step was becoming the family's physician. Alicia's narration scoffs that the foolish Diana never noticed their relationship, as they are shown holding hands like dear friends. She recalls hiding her pregnancy from Diana, secretly giving birth to Catherine, and then lying to Calypso that Diana's child had died. A young, happy Catherine is shown holding her father's hand, having filled the void left by the supposedly deceased child. Alicia remembers her plan proceeding smoothly, with the final step being to take care of Diana, truly believing she was the one blessed by the gods, not Diana. In the present, She laments that her perfect plan is now all falling apart. Panicked, Alicia recalls that Isel, whom they believed was a runaway, has returned as an adopted daughter, and she mutters that the situation is now dangerous. Returning to Catherine's room, Alicia furiously demands to know what she is doing, asking if she has forgotten everything. Alicia reminds her that her magic test will resume after her disciplinary period, and that this is no time to be relaxed. Catherine petulantly asks why they should get worked up over someone like Isel, but Alicia sternly warns her never to underestimate their opponent. Alicia cautions that if they aren't careful, they will be the ones driven out, not Isel, leaving Catherine looking worried. The series title appears on screen. In a dark room, a pair of hands hovers over a glowing purple orb as a voice murmurs in recognition. A smiling woman in a dark hood gazes into the orb, noting that a rare guest has come to visit. A bell chimes as an idyllic house is shown at night, with a voice welcoming someone. Inside a tavern, a cloaked figure approaches a bartender who asks for their order. The cloaked figure, Alicia, states that she heard the real owner here is called the Shadow, and the bartender smirks. The bartender cryptically replies that without light there is no shadow, and asks what darkness she is searching for. Alicia coolly responds that there is a light that needs to disappear. The bartender agrees, inviting her to come inside as he leads her through a hidden door. Alicia follows him down a dark, stone-walled corridor. She is brought before the hooded woman from earlier, who welcomes Alicia and notes it's their first time meeting in person. Alicia greets Cassandra, remarking on the guild's secrecy, and Cassandra assures her that her visit will not be regretted. When Alicia asks about the fee, Cassandra states that she has a question first. Cassandra extends her hand in a gesture of invitation. Alicia places her hand in Cassandra's, who then tells her to proceed. Alicia asks if there is a way to definitively identify a child's bloodline. Cassandra explains that the gem embedded in every noble family's crest can confirm if a bloodline matches the house. An image of a grand family crest and seal appears as the narration explains that a blood test can reveal much more. It clarifies that a blood test can confirm pure blood status, parentage, and even the exact birth date of an individual. Alicia grimaces, realizing with horror that this means Isel didn't lie her way into the Marquis's house. She panics, thinking that if Catherine is confirmed to have no magic and Diana orders a bloodline test, they will be finished. An image of Isel replacing a crying Catherine flashes through her mind as she realizes Isel will take her daughter's place. Back in the present meeting, Alicia places a heavy pouch on the table and declares she has a request. A small smile plays on Cassandra's lips before she bursts into laughter, declaring that she likes people like Alicia. Cassandra leans in, confiding that her favorite clients are those soaked in pure malice. Agreeing to the job, Cassandra says she will connect Alicia with an assassin and hands her a letter with a location. A black crow perches on a moonlit branch before taking flight. Alicia walks through a remote, overgrown field, wondering if she's been scammed and if a guild member could really live in such a place. She cautiously approaches a rustic wooden cabin. Inside, a rugged man with a scar, an eye patch, and dark hair tied back asks who she is. Alicia explains she was sent by the Information Guild for a job, and the man inspects the letter she offers, confirming the handwriting belongs to Cassandra. He apologizes for the mess as they sit at a table, then asks what the job is. Alicia looks at him intently and states her mission: to kill a child who uses magic. The assassin tells Alicia she has come to the right place, noting that an ordinary assassin is no match for a mage. A document is slid into an open wooden drawer. Agreeing to the job, the assassin asks Alicia for all the details about the child. As he writes, Alicia explains the target is a noble girl named Isel, recently adopted by the Ernst Grand Duchy, who has platinum blonde hair, green eyes, and uses her mother's ice magic. Alicia then tells him to check the fee, noting the job's high risk. Wham! Alicia slams her hands on the table in shock, yelling that the price must be a mistake as a strange energy begins to swirl from the floor. A powerful magical aura erupts around the room, startling Alicia. The assassin's eye glows red as he remarks that Cassandra must not have told her who he is. A powerful emblem appears behind him as he reveals his secret. He is a mage from the Magic Tower. He reveals he is not just any mage, but the disciple of the Tower Master himself. Stunned, Alicia asks why a mage from the tower is here, and he explains that he was expelled for doing unforgivable things for money, like this job. Extending his hand, He pointedly asks Alicia if she will make the contract or not. With grim determination, Alicia closes her eyes and agrees to the contract. Alicia tells the assassin she will send the payment, inwardly recalling the piercing look of revenge in Isel's eyes, which she found as sharp as a blade. Smirking as she holds the contract, Alicia declares that Isel's revenge ends here and tells him to ensure the job is done right. The scene transitions to the grand Ernst estate, illuminated by the light of a full moon. Inside, Isel speaks with a dark-haired maid in a luxurious room. A delighted Isel stands in a sunlit garden, happily clutching a letter. The grand facade of the estate is shown again, this time under a starry sky with a crescent moon. As Isel knits beside her on the sofa, Diana listens as the dark-haired maid tells her not to worry about someone who always goes out at this time. The maid then presents Isel with a letter, prompting a surprised Isel to question its arrival. Clutching the letter, Isel looks perplexed, thinking she doesn't know anyone who would send her mail. Diana asks the maid if what she just heard is true. Looking up from the couch, Diana enthusiastically confirms the news with a yes. Isel looks at her mother with concern, asking, "Mother?" as Diana seems lost in thought. Diana smiles fondly, explaining that the news reminds her of when she visited the Magic Tower as a child, a place she recalls as otherworldly and far different from high society, as a flashback shows a crowd in awe of a mage's spell. As Isel heads for the door, Diana calls out for her to wait. Isel, now wearing a lovely pink dress and a floral straw hat, turns around. Diana hands Isel a pouch of money, insisting she take it in case she gets hungry, though Isel protests she is only going to the Magic Tower. Isel's eyes light up as she asks if this means she can also visit the city square, and Diana warmly agrees. Overjoyed, Isel dances with excitement as Diana watches with a gentle smile. Diana's expression becomes emotional as she watches her daughter's happiness. Realizing with regret how small Isel's world has been, Diana laments that she should have been more attentive as an image of a sad Isel behind the bars of a cage flashes in her mind. Diana softly calls Isel's name, and her daughter looks back at her with a gentle expression. Seeing her mother tearing up, Isel rushes to her side, begging her not to cry and assuring her that she is all right. Diana gazes at Isel and vows that once everything is over, they will visit a southern beach the exact color of her daughter's eyes. The two share a heartfelt embrace, surrounded by an aura of love and flowers. As a royal carriage waits outside, Isel happily calls out, "Yes, mother." The light blue-haired maid Belinda bows apologetically to Diana, explaining that another maid named Shane insisted she wear a nice dress for the outing. Diana reassures Belinda, telling her the dress suits her very well. Smiling gratefully, Belinda promises Diana that she will take good care of Isel and protect her. Diana waves goodbye as the carriage departs, wishing Isel a good time, and Isel promises to be back soon. Standing among white flowers, Diana watches her daughter's carriage drive away. The coachman guides the horses, pulling the grand carriage away from the estate. Inside the moving carriage, Isel asks, with wide-eyed excitement, if they really have bards in the city square. Belinda confirms that bards often gather there, and mentions that Milan once asked one to play the flute, delighting Isel even more. When Belinda notes her excitement, Isel joyfully confirms it's her very first time going out like this, as their carriage travels through the countryside. Waving from the window, Isel thinks about the city's dirty streets and sick people. She concludes it is still much better than being locked up in Catherine's room, as Belinda looks on with a hint of concern. Belinda begins to tell a story she deems uninteresting, but Isel eagerly pleads for her to continue. The blue-haired maid smiles faintly as she thoughtfully adjusts a strand of her hair. A flashback reveals a light blue-haired knight being dismissed for refusing a bribe meant to cover up corruption. In the past, the blue-haired woman reads a notice, recalling how her friend Shane was looking for a secret guard for the Archduchess, presenting her with an opportunity. Diana asks if they've met again, and an off-screen voice confirms they have. A flashback shows the blue-haired woman as a young girl, revealing that she is also from an orphanage. She recalls how she was able to become independent, thanks to the generous support of a young blonde-haired girl who helped her and the other orphans. A memory of the kind blonde girl holding a teddy bear inspired her to want to serve someone so noble. The blue-haired woman smiles at a young blonde girl, saying she achieved her goal by serving her grace, and the girl happily agrees. The quiet scene shifts, focusing on a rustling tree. A cloaked figure stands near a waiting carriage, observing from a distance. The figure is revealed to be a smirking man with brown hair and glasses, cloaked in black. In a garden, glowing ice shards materialize and fly through the air as an unseen voice commands, "Again!" Beams of ice magic streak across the garden as the command repeats. Ruairi criticizes Diana's weak magic, and she apologetically asks what they were working on. He leans in close to a blushing Diana, teasing that their relationship is progressing. In a cute, stylized panel, Ruairi reassures a flustered Diana that he was just joking. Diana explains she is just worried about Isel, realizing that Ruairi would know her too. She informs a stunned Ruairi that her daughter Isel went to the magic tower today. Diana happily explains that there's a tour event for children with magical abilities. Rue gravely informs her that the event was cancelled after a child was injured while testing a magic artifact. Diana's expression freezes in shock and horror. She collapses in panic, insisting that she received a letter from the magic tower. Ruairi rushes to Diana's side as she gasps that her daughter is in danger. The scene flashes to a wrecked carriage, overturned on a dusty road, with a lone horse fleeing. At the bloody crash site, a desperate thought screams that Isel is in danger. Earlier, Isel's carriage travels briskly through a sunlit forest. Inside, Isel sits cheerfully with her blue-haired attendant, Belinda, pointing out a restaurant she wants to visit. The carriage's white horses pull them steadily along the path. The coachman, Jackson, calmly holds the reins. The cloaked man with glasses appears, conjuring a ball of white energy in his hand. He unleashes a powerful blast of wind magic, violently shaking the carriage and causing Isel to scream in terror. As the horses rear up, Belinda shouts to Jackson, who yells that the wind appeared suddenly as the carriage begins to tip. The carriage wheel smashes against a large rock on the side of the road. The powerful impact sends the entire carriage flipping through the air. Belinda throws her body over Isel to shield her as they're violently thrown from the wreckage, crying out for her lady. The scene briefly cuts to two white doves resting peacefully on a branch. The doves take flight, soaring away from the tranquil woods. The grim reality of the bloody crash site returns. Isel's green eye flutters open. She finds herself safely in the arms of an injured Belinda, who took the brunt of the fall. Isel sits up, dazed, and asks what happened, while Belinda lies unconscious beside her. Spotting her injured protector, Isel cries out for Belinda, who weakly asks if she is all right despite bleeding from her head. Isel panics, realizing Belinda shielded her and is bleeding heavily. As Belinda tries to sit up, insisting she did her duty, Isel begs her not to move and reopen her wound. Gravely injured, Belinda urges Isel to go to the mage tower. Isel begins to cry, her first trip out ending in tragedy. Sobbing, she yells that the mage tower isn't important when Belinda is so badly hurt. A voice from off-screen offers help. Isel carefully helps the injured Belinda walk past the wreckage, where their coachman, Jackson, lies unconscious. She gasps in alarm, seeing the bloody and motionless Jackson on the ground. Belinda kneels by the coachman, checking his pulse and confirming that he has only fainted. The coachman's bloody hand reaches for Isel, as he thinks in disbelief about the crash. Isel stands over the injured Belinda, deciding they must head to the nearest village for treatment, despite Belinda's weak protest. Tying her hair back, Isel insists she is fine and says they can visit the magic tower another time. She clutches a flower from her dress with a look of newfound determination. Remembering a vision of her mother, Isel resolves that she can no longer bear to see the people she cares about get hurt. A close-up shows Belinda's blood-streaked face as she looks at Isel with concern. Isel gently takes Belinda's hand and asks to be excused for a moment. From behind a tree, the cloaked assassin watches as Isel helps the injured Belinda walk away. Back at the estate, Ruairi tells a shocked Diana that he believes Isel has walked into a trap. Diana panics, insisting they must rescue her daughter immediately. Ruairi calmly asks when Isel left for the magic tower, gazing at an image of the wrecked carriage. Ruairi notes that even with a mana tunnel, Isel would not have arrived yet. He declares that they will ride out and try to intercept the carriage. Ruairi summons a glowing horse made of pure magical energy as Diana looks on. Now mounted, Ruairi asks Diana if she is ready, and she thinks how lost she would be without him. Steeling herself, Diana confirms she is ready, grateful that she wasn't left paralyzed by panic. Diana rides behind Ruairi on the magical steed as they gallop away from the estate. The scene shifts to a large, timber-framed building in a quiet village. Inside, a man asks about the condition of Belinda, who lies unconscious and bandaged in a bed after the accident. A woman in a white coat explains to Isel that while Belinda's life is not in danger, her condition is critical. Overcome with guilt, Isel blames herself for the incident, wishing she hadn't invited Belinda to the tower. Isel hands the woman a gold coin, pleading for her to treat Belinda no matter the cost, and the woman promises to do her best. The sun shines on a deserted cobblestone street in the village. Isel leans against a wall, letting out a sigh of relief. She smiles, feeling lucky that her mother gave her gold coins for the trip. Isel resolves to immediately send word for a new carriage and help. As she walks down the street, a gold coin slips from her pocket unnoticed. A hooded figure, the assassin, calls out to the young lady. He returns her dropped gold coin, and Isel begins to thank him. Wham! In a flash, the assassin grabs her ponytail and strikes her neck, causing her to recognize him just before losing consciousness. He catches the now limp Isel as she falls. The assassin holds the unconscious girl, a sinister smirk playing on his lips. The chapter's credits are displayed. As she rides with Ruairi, Diana closes her eyes in prayer. She desperately hopes Isel is safe, terrified of losing her daughter again. Hearing her worried murmurs, Ruairi turns to her with a questioning look. He suddenly pulls their mount to a stop, directing her attention to the gruesome sight of the overturned and bloodied carriage. Diana's eyes widen in horror at the scene. Leaping from the horse, she screams Isel's name in terror. Diana runs frantically toward the wreckage, calling out for her daughter. She finds the coachman, Jackson, gravely injured and slumped against a tree trunk. Kneeling beside him, Diana frantically asks what happened and where Isel and Belinda are, but he doesn't know. Jackson weakly explains that the carriage overturned unexpectedly as Ruairi listens grimly. Diana falls to her knees in despair, remembering the carriage was in perfect condition and realizing she has no excuse for what's happened. Her mind races as she pieces it all together. The invitation was fake, the accident was planned, and the only people who would do this are Alicia and Catherine. A snarl forms on her face as she thinks about how they switched her daughter at birth. Her expression darkens with cold fury as she realizes they are now trying to kill Isel. Her hand clenches into a tight fist. Ruairi approaches the weeping Diana and asks if she is all right. Diana wipes her tears and looks at Ruairi with resolve, agreeing that finding Isel is the top priority and declaring that she is fine. Ruairi observes a trail of blood, deducing that an injured Belinda and Isel would have headed to the nearest village. As Diana kneels by the unconscious coachman, Ruairi declares they will all travel to the village instantly using magic. Diana gratefully takes his hand, but Ruairi tells her to save her thanks for after they've found Isel. In a cute depiction, Diana offers her hand to the coachman, who weakly thanks Ruairi. A brilliant swirl of golden magic engulfs the three of them, preparing to teleport them away. The chapter ends on a cliffhanger. The scene transitions to a quiet, timber-framed village, bathed in sunlight. Tisk, Belinda, covered in bandages, slowly opens her eyes as she regains consciousness. Looking around the unfamiliar infirmary, she wonders how long she's been unconscious and where Isel is. Her eyes widen as she hears a familiar voice calling Isel's name. Diana rushes into the room, supported by Ruairi, who also helps the coachman, leaving Belinda stunned. Diana frantically asks if Isel is safe, and Belinda reassures her that she was not hurt, only tired from helping her. As Belinda apologizes, Diana breathes a sigh of relief, admitting it could have been far worse. Belinda reveals that the invitation to the magic tower was a trap, shocking everyone. Ruairi confirms her story, stating that the magic tower hasn't held such events in a long time. Belinda insists that Alicia must be behind it, but Diana calmly says their first priority is to return safely. Her focus shifting, Diana asks where Isel is now. The village doctor informs the group that Isel left quite a while ago. Stunned by the news, Diana can only stare in disbelief. The scene fades into a dark void, where a lost and frightened Isel wanders, calling for her mother. Suddenly, a vision of Diana appears in the darkness, reaching out her hand to her daughter. Overjoyed, Isel calls out "Mother," and reaches for the apparition's hand. The vision of her mother smiles warmly, filling the darkness with light. But the happy vision is shattered by a horrifying memory of Calypso coldly giving the order to fire. The memory continues, showing Diana's past self being brutally struck down by a volley of arrows. No! Isel's eyes fly open as she screams, waking from the terrible nightmare. She finds herself on the wooden floor of a strange room, completely disoriented and wondering where she is. Back in the village, Diana's desperate search proves fruitless, as a local woman says she hasn't seen the child. Biting her thumb in anxiety, Diana wonders where Isel could have disappeared to. Ruairi returns to report that his search came up empty as well, deepening Diana's alarm. A hand begins to emanate a powerful, glowing, magical energy. As Ruairi stands within a magic circle, Diana questions him, and he explains that Isel can wield magic, which he can track. Closing his eyes, Ruairi concentrates, expanding his magical senses across the village. He confirms with Diana that Isel shares her ice attribute, and she affirms it is true. Diana flinches as Ruairi announces he senses two types of magical energy, ice and wind, his expression grim. Ruairi analyzes the lingering magical traces with a ball of glowing energy. Diana looks horrified as she pictures Alicia and Catherine, realizing exactly who would order such an attack. Ruairi casually dismisses the notion, claiming there are no thugs like that in the tower. He trails off, however, as a specific memory comes to his mind. He recalls that one mage was, in fact, expelled for doing similar mercenary work, as a flashback shows Isel's capture. The scene flashes back to Isel, identifying her captor as a mage who controls the wind. The cloaked assassin with the eye patch looms ominously over the captured Isel. Tossing a gold coin, the assassin explains that he holds no personal grudges and was simply motivated by the payment. Gagged and bound, Isel struggles defiantly against her captor. The assassin promises her a quick, painless death in a single strike as a single tear escapes her eye. He smirks at her muffled struggles, enjoying her desperation. While the assassin taunts her, Isel secretly uses magic to dissolve the gag binding her mouth. Now free to speak, she confronts the assassin from her knees. Looking at him with defiance, Isel declares that the blood of the powerful Pareshi family runs through her veins. She proposes a counteroffer, telling him that blackmailing the Marquis Parasha would be far more profitable than his current contract. The assassin narrows his eyes, realizing Isel knows who hired him. Still bound, Isel confidently states that it's obvious, as she secretly dissolves her ropes with ice magic. Continuing to bargain, Isel reminds him of the Paresha family's immense wealth, causing the assassin to muse on her audacity. The assassin grabs her, remarking with amusement on her knack for scheming as she holds a newly formed ice dagger. Isel glares back with fierce, determined green eyes. With a shout, she lunges at him with her ice dagger, demanding he let her go. He swiftly dodges her attack with a single step. Landing defiantly, Isel summons jagged ice from the floor, asking if he really thought she'd die quietly. Unimpressed, the assassin easily blocks her ice dagger with his forearm. He unleashes a gust of wind magic, effortlessly throwing Isel backward. Ugh. Isel hits the ground hard, blood trickling from her mouth. The assassin comments that the job is becoming a hassle. As a paralyzed Isel realizes her body won't move, he looms over her, explaining this is the price for rejecting his offer of a quick death. Wag! Isel screams in agony from another unseen attack. The assassin coldly wonders why she's so desperate to fight back. Gathering wind magic in his hand, he declares that her struggle ends now. He takes a deliberate step toward the fallen girl. Believing this is the end, Isel closes her eye and tearfully apologizes to her mother. Crash! A sudden, violent force shatters the wall of the building. Isel looks up in shock at the destruction, seeing a broken wooden board amidst a glow of fire. Framed by golden flames, Diana and Ruairi arrive, with Diana crying out Isel's name in desperation. Lying wounded on the floor, Isel looks up in disbelief and weakly calls out to her mother. Diana rushes to her fallen child, as the assassin questions their sudden appearance. Unfazed by the fiery intrusion, the assassin states that he doesn't recall inviting any of them. Whoosh! Ruairi unleashes a massive fireball, forcing Diana to shield Isel from the blast. Ruairi glares at the assassin, icily remarking that no one would willingly come to such a wretched place. As Diana holds her daughter, asking if she's okay, a stunned Isel wonders how her mother found her. Tears streaming down her face, Diana apologizes profusely to Isel, blaming herself for being too late. Gently caressing her daughter's bloody face, Diana wishes she could take all of Isel's pain upon herself. Overcome with grief, Diana thinks she would bear the hurt over and over again to spare her child. Holding Isel protectively, Diana warns her that the assassin is dangerous. Ruairi's determined blue eye is shown in a sharp close-up. Staring down their foe, Ruairi observes that the man uses strange magic. Amidst swirling dust, the assassin stands his ground, The assassin smirks, asking Ruairi if he was the one who tracked him down. Ruairi confirms it, adding that unlike the assassin, he is from the real Mage Tower. The assassin scoffs that it doesn't matter, and launches a wave of wind magic. Snarling with rage, the assassin declares he'll just kill them all. He fires a powerful beam of concentrated wind magic down at Ruairi. Ruairi gracefully leaps aside, dodging the blast. He clenches his fists, gathering his own magical energy for a counterattack. With a command to pour down, Ruairi summons multiple glowing magic circles above. Spears of light begin to rain down from the magical formations. The magical spears slam into the wooden floor, narrowly missing the combatants. Ruairi remains poised as his powerful spell continues to cascade around him. With a look of intense focus, Ruairi watches his attack unfold. Diana screams, "Sister!" as she shields Isel from the magical onslaught. She shuts her eyes tightly, holding her daughter in a protective embrace. The assassin and Ruairi face off, their opposing magical energies crackling in the air. As Diana cradles Isel, delicate snowflakes begin to fall, hinting at a new power awakening. Diana holds her wounded daughter, her hand glowing with a protective blue light as snowflakes fall around them. Coughing violently, Isel spits up blood as she clings to her mother. Tears stream down Diana's face as she hears Isel weakly call out, "Mother." Holding Isel close, Diana's thoughts race, urging her daughter to hurry and run away. From above, a protective dome of ice and snow encapsulates Diana and her child. Clinging to Isel, Diana internally panics, wanting only for her daughter to escape to safety. Enraged, the assassin snarls, calling Isel an insolent brat as wind magic gathers in his hand. A close-up reveals the assassin's furious, gritted teeth expression. The assassin looks down in shock as jagged ice erupts from the floor, trapping his feet. Diana takes a steady step forward, her elegant shoes treading on the magically frosted floor. Blue energy swirls around Diana as she stands defiantly before the ice-bound assassin. With tears in her eyes but a look of hardened resolve, Diana glares at her enemy. A flashback shows Ruairi critiquing Diana's weak ice magic, while she thinks about how difficult it is to master. In her memory, Diana practices forming a small ice crystal, realizing she needs far more power. Smiling gently, Ruairi tells her in the flashback that kind people find it harder to wield such power. He explains their soft hearts hold them back, as the scene returns to the present with Diana unleashing a torrent of ice magic. The assassin scoffs, mocking the pampered noble for daring to face him. Diana's gaze remains fixed and unwavering, her grief turning into cold determination. Surrounded by her power, Diana coldly tells the assassin she is sorry to disappoint him. She thinks to herself that despite her noble birth, she wasn't raised all that delicately. Slamming her hands down, Diana summons massive shards of ice from the floor. With a command to die, she launches her attack, forcing the assassin to quickly conjure a defensive spell. The clashing magical energies erupt in a blinding flash of light. Amidst the magical explosion, Diana repeats that she is sorry to disappoint him. A massive shockwave of blue and white energy rips through the room. Standing at a distance, Ruairi grunts as he shields his face from the intense blast. The battle ends as the assassin is seen impaled high upon a spike of ice. Breathing heavily, Diana looks on, her face a mask of shock and exhaustion after unleashing her deadly power. Ruairi stares in disbelief, silently questioning how Diana managed such a feat. Her power receding, Diana turns and walks toward her fallen daughter. Looking down at Isel, Diana's face is filled with sorrow and pain. From Ruairi's perspective, Diana stands over Isel's still form. The scene transitions to a beautiful estate under a peaceful, starry sky. Diana gently strokes the face of her unconscious daughter, who now has a large bruise. She pulls Isel into a warm embrace, softly telling her that it's time to go home. As a fire rages behind them, Ruairi carries the unconscious Isel, while Diana walks beside him. Ruairi reassures Diana that it's over now, promising that the wretched place will soon be burned to the ground. In a luxurious room, Isel rests peacefully under a warm blanket. Diana carefully unseals a small bottle of healing potion. As Diana tends to Isel, Ruairi informs her that the top-grade alchemical potion will heal the physical wounds in days. Watching her daughter sleep, Diana thinks to herself that the physical wounds are only part of the problem. Her heart aches as she wonders how they will ever heal Isel's emotional scars. Ruairi looks down with regret, apologizing for not finding Isel sooner. Diana tells Ruairi he did everything he could and expresses her genuine gratitude for his help. She quietly contemplates the potion bottle in her hands. Rui informs her that the assassin was an excommunicated mage who had broken the tower's taboos. Ruairi tries to console her by calling the man a blight on society, but Diana silently rejects the notion. She firmly believes that she had no right to kill him, stating that every life is sacred. In a moment of reflection, Diana accepts that she may one day have to pay the price for taking a life. Holding a hand to her chest, she stands by her decision with quiet resolve. A powerful resolve forms in Diana's mind. She still wants to protect Isel. Hearing this, Ruairi's gaze sharpens with understanding and determination. The scene transitions to a quiet, sunlit room within the estate. Later, Diana and her daughter Isel sleep peacefully side by side as a hand gently pulls the blanket over them. Ruairi smiles softly, telling Diana to do as she wishes and promising he will always be on her side. Sitting opposite him, Diana finds his unwavering support strange, murmuring his name in thought. She reflects on his kindness, noting how deeply he, her teacher, cares for her adopted daughter. Concluding that he truly is a good man, Diana sincerely thanks him for everything. As night falls, a tranquil, starry sky watches over the estate. In the quiet of the night, Diana holds her sleeping daughter close. Ruairi looks back with a faint, knowing smile. He casts a gentle spell of golden light over the sleeping Isel, ensuring she only has happy dreams. Elsewhere, Alicia grows anxious, sensing that something is very strange. Pacing nervously, she wonders why she hasn't heard back from the assassin. A chill runs down her spine as she realizes the mansion is unnaturally quiet, like it's dead. Gazing down the grand, empty hall, Alicia is certain that something is off. With a grimace, she pulls a dark hood over her head to investigate discreetly. Deciding to check for herself, the cloaked Alicia walks purposefully down the silent hallway. Creak! The sound of a door opening nearby makes her stop in her tracks. A voice calls out, "Doctor," as a pair of elegant shoes with pink bows comes into view. A smiling, elegantly dressed Isel stands before the cloaked figure. The story's title card is displayed, separating the scenes. Alicia's mind reels in shock as she recognizes the girl and thinks, "Isel?" Stunned, she wonders how Isel is there and if the assassin could have possibly failed. Forcing a calm demeanor, Alicia dismisses it as bad timing and asks Isel what brings her here. Isel smiles sweetly, observing that Alicia seems quite shocked to see her. With a sudden crackle, jagged ice erupts from the floor, trapping Alicia's feet. As Isel turns away, a panicked Alicia demands to know what she is doing, but Isel retorts that she should be asking Alicia the same thing. Isel calmly presents a rolled-up document, the assassination contract. Unfurling the paper, Isel reads aloud the order for her own murder placed by Alicia Blair, prompting Alicia to scream for her to stop. Noting the high price on the contract, Isel coldly tells a horrified Alicia there is no need to search for the hired help. Isel stares into Alicia's terrified eyes and informs her that the assassin she hired is no longer in this world. Gleefully anticipating her mother's reaction, Isel holds up the contract, while an enraged Alicia screams at the monstrous girl to stop. Alicia shouts in disbelief that Isel survived, and Isel calmly confirms it, offering her a chance. "A chance?" Alicia stammers, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. Peeking playfully from behind a wall of yellow roses, Isel remarks that girls her age can be quite temperamental. With a chillingly sharp gaze, she warns Alicia that it would be best for her to behave. The doors close, and Isel reflects that her mother wanted to punish the shameless woman immediately. Isel's thought continues, confirming her mother's immediate desire for retribution the moment she awoke. Diana appears with magical energy swirling around her hand, telling Isel to step aside, declaring she cannot let Alicia go unpunished. Isel stops her mother, calmly stating that simply letting Alicia go now would be far too merciful. Her voice filled with pain, Isel insists their enemies must feel the same despair they did, arguing that their revenge cannot end so simply. In another part of the mansion, Catherine walks down the hall carrying a jewelry box, passing the room where Isel stands guard. Catherine suddenly turns, sensing something is amiss. Rushing into the room, she discovers Alicia trapped and kneeling on the floor, surrounded by jagged ice. In a flashback to the earlier confrontation, Diana repeats her vow not to let Alicia go unpunished, after nearly losing Isel again. Catherine confronts the trapped Alicia, demanding to know about the assassination and payment, shocking Alicia with her sudden appearance. Opening her jewelry box, Catherine realizes her jewelry is missing and accuses Alicia of stealing it to pay for the hit. Alicia tries to explain, but Catherine furiously cuts her off, demanding to know how she could have failed even after all that. Whack! Enraged by the failure and betrayal, Catherine strikes Alicia with the heavy box, screaming, "What are you even good at?" A cloaked Alicia frantically tries to calm a pale Catherine, who looks away in shock. With a firm step, Catherine turns her back on Alicia and walks away. Striding down the hall with a menacing shadow looming behind her, Catherine declares that from now on, she's doing things her own way as Alicia calls her name in panic. A dark, menacing power reveals its presence, asserting that it is not just Catherine's way, but our way. In a flashback, a weary Catherine is chided for studying all night, and she furiously tells the person to stay out of her business. The scene shifts to a warm memory of Diana brushing a young Isel's hair as Isel expresses her excitement. A silver-haired man explains he sent both Isel and Catherine to a magic competition, using his father's support as bait for his plan. At a past meal, a serene Isel dines while Catherine glares at her with intense annoyance. Diana reflects that since Catherine lacks mana, only Isel will be able to continue with the magic lessons, a key part of her plan. A smiling Isel declares her determination to become stronger and work hard for the upcoming competition. Diana encourages her daughter, telling her to show them all what she is capable of. In the garden, Diana spots a familiar figure in the distance and wonders if it's Ali. Alicia greets Diana formally, explaining that Isel invited her to watch the magic lessons. Diana's inner monologue begins, noting that Isel is currently blackmailing Alicia. Continuing her thought, Diana muses that Alicia must still be worried about Catherine despite the situation. Diana invites Alicia to watch the lessons with them, and Alicia hesitantly agrees. A new figure appears in the garden and greets the ladies. A young man with brown hair and white robes introduces himself as Real, a magician of royal rank. A close-up shows the magician's formal attire and a star-shaped brooch. Diana is startled by the name Real, recognizing a familiar aura and thinking it can't be possible. In the garden, Diana spots a familiar figure in the distance and wonders if it's Ali. As the brown-haired man winks, a shocked chibi Diana realizes it's Rueri in disguise. As the group stands together, an unseen speaker notes that their new instructor was recommended by Rueri. The brown-haired man winks, and a small, shocked Diana realizes it's Rueri in disguise. The disguised man greets Isel and Catherine, stating it is a pleasure to meet them. Isel pauses, staring intently at the new instructor. The instructor notices Isel's gaze and silently wonders why she is staring at him. Isel senses a look of concern from the man and wonders if he somehow knows who she is. While the real Rueri smirks from an imagined background, Isel internally scoffs, recognizing him instantly despite his disguise and his boastful introduction. The instructor asks the girls to release their mana so he can gauge their levels. Catherine and Isel share determined expressions before the test begins. With a smile, Catherine generously tells Isel that she can go first. Catherine claims to have reflected on her past behavior and asks Isel to forget her former foolishness, making Isel suspicious. Isel recalls Catherine's past explosive rage and wonders what new scheme she is plotting. Putting on a smile, Isel agrees to the challenge, encouraging Catherine to do her best as well. Isel steps forward to begin her magic demonstration. Wah! Isel unleashes a powerful blast of pure blue ice magic. The instructor applauds, praising her excellent ice magic and declaring her qualified for a beginner's license. Overjoyed to be praised by a real magician, Isel gratefully thanks him. The instructor then turns to Catherine, announcing it is now her turn. Isel recalls Catherine's past explosive rage and wonders what new scheme she is plotting. Catherine smiles confidently and agrees to begin her demonstration. Watching from the side, Alicia grows uneasy, wondering what Catherine is thinking. Smirking, Catherine summons a swirling, sinister purple energy around herself. Both Isel and Diana react in utter shock as Diana realizes Catherine is using magic. Alicia's eyes widen in disbelief as she struggles to comprehend that Catherine is using magic. With a triumphant sneer, Alicia tells Diana to watch closely, boasting that her daughter's magic is greater than Isel's. Horrified, Diana stares at the display, thinking that what she's seeing is impossible. Diana turns with a worried look toward the instructor, who also appears serious. Catherine closes her eyes, raising her arm to command a massive vortex of purple magical power. With a triumphant smile, Catherine looks to her mother and joyfully exclaims that she did it. In a brief flash, Diana is shown grabbing Catherine's arm, while in the present, Isel wonders how Catherine was able to use magic. Diana acknowledges Catherine's impressive display and asks what happened since last time, but Catherine dismisses it as just being nervous before. When asked for his opinion, the instructor confirms he saw Catherine's magic and suggests they move on to the next part. Annoyed, Catherine inwardly complains that he's cutting her praise short after fawning over Isel's lower-rank magic. Despite her irritation, Catherine senses there's more to the situation. She notices that even Isel doesn't look pleased with the outcome. Facing Isel, Catherine confidently declares that she learns quickly and will be in her care from now on as her sister. The scene transitions to a hand preparing a cup of tea. Diana, the disguised instructor, and a third hooded figure have tea, but Diana curtly tells the cloaked person they should go back now. As the disguise peels away to reveal Ruairi, he thinks to himself that he knew Diana would recognize him. A brief, cute flashback shows Ruairi talking with a young Isel. In the present, Diana remains silent, listening intently, her teacup reflecting his true form. Diana asks Ruairi why he came disguised as the magic instructor. Now fully revealed, Ruairi calmly sips his tea. He confirms her suspicion and states the first reason he came was because of Isel. Calling Isel a kind girl just like Diana, Ruairi's concern is understood by Diana. Rui notes that their last encounter was under special circumstances, preventing a proper introduction. A tender memory of Diana embracing a young Isel surfaces as he continues his thought. Ruairi playfully asks if Diana and Isel are too busy for private lessons. A comical scene interrupts, showing a frantic chibi subordinate chasing a red phoenix, screaming for Lord Ruairi to return immediately for an executive meeting. Ruairi smiles fondly, telling Diana that she was, after all, his very first student. Diana thanks him, but her expression turns pained as she thinks his name. Ugh. She grips her head as a sudden, sharp pain strikes her. Rui asks if she's all right, but Diana waves off his concern, insisting she is fine. Pressing on, Diana asks Ruairi to tell her about Catherine's newfound abilities. With a serious gaze, Ruairi listens as she demands to know what exactly happened. The scene flashes back to Catherine standing calmly in the garden, surrounded by a sinister vortex of purple energy. Catherine confidently utters the word, eclipse. A dark-haired, red-eyed man appears behind her in the magical energy, praising her for doing very well. Back in the present, Diana reacts in shock as Ruairi finishes his explanation. A vision of a glowing book, bound in heavy chains and surrounded by a dark magic circle, fills the screen. Ruairi explains that dark magic is a forbidden power, sealed away by ancient mages who foresaw the calamities it would bring. The seal is shown shattering as the narration states that this unknown power vanished from history. However, Ruairi reveals that contrary to popular belief, there is exactly one way to use dark magic. The method is a contract with a demon, a power so great that even an ordinary person could wield it and their ancestors couldn't stop it. A shocked Diana asks if anyone can use it so easily, but Ruairi clarifies that demons don't make contracts with just anyone. He speculates Catherine must have offered something immense, wondering how she caught a demon's attention as a horned figure looms over her. With a grim look, Ruairi concludes that Catherine will surely regret her choice deeply. Diana clenches her fist, declaring that she knows something, which piques Ruairi's curiosity. Ruairi and Diana share a silent, serious look. With newfound resolve, Diana looks up and tells Ruairi that she understands. The scene transitions to a bright, hopeful sky. A few days later, the story moves to a large, magnificent estate. The location is identified as the Duchy of Iberg. The elegant footsteps of a noblewoman echo through the halls. Duchess Serena de Iberg smiles, noting that the Grand Duchy of Ernst has confirmed they will attend this year's banquet. She asks her son Sawyer if he is aware of this, and he calmly affirms that he is. Duchess Serena places a beautiful bouquet of flowers into a vase. She comments that the purple and yellow peonies will match the banquet hall perfectly. Duchess Serena asks her son Sawyer if he remembers the Lady of Ernst, and he politely confirms their families are close. Holding a purple flower, Duchess Serena recalls Diana once saying that Sawyer attracts attention, just like a flower. A slightly flustered Sawyer stammers his acknowledgement of the compliment. Duchess Serena informs Sawyer that this visit will be more than a simple courtesy, and he promises to do his best. Sawyer grimly thinks to himself that his marriage match has already been arranged without his consent. He pauses, scoffing at being called a flower before addressing his approaching sister. A young woman with peachy pink hair and a fan smirks, questioning if the Lady of Ernst was certain about the compliment. Sawyer calmly corrects her, stating that his younger sibling is more like a shaded tree than a flower. The scene transitions, showing a sunlit view through an ornate window. A close-up shows the elegant shoes of a nobleman taking a step forward. Gazing out the window, Sawyer laments that his marriage is being decided for him, and his half-sister is always hostile. Sitting alone, he reflects that this birthday feels empty yet again. With weary eyes, Sawyer wishes the upcoming banquet would just be over with quickly. The scene shifts to Isel and Catherine sitting quietly together on a sofa. Catherine's expression lights up as she eagerly asks if something is true, confirming it with a happy yes. Diana, sitting opposite the girls, smiles and agrees that the news would be wonderful. Catherine excitedly tells her mother that she's confident this time, especially since young Master Sawyer will be there. Diana instructs Catherine to guide Isel well, as she is new to high society. What? Catherine's eye widens in pure shock and disbelief at her mother's request. As Diana expresses her trust in Catherine, Isel shares her excitement about visiting House Iberg. Diana reaffirms Isel's place, stating she is Ernst's daughter as the two girls sit together. Catherine clenches her teeth in fury, internally seething Isel's name and her unending ambition. Internally, Catherine calms herself, realizing this trip is an opportunity, while outwardly feigning confusion. A dark vision reveals her true intent, to use the banquet as a stage to publicly humiliate Isel. Catherine smirks, inwardly praising her demonic partner, Eclipse, and feeling glad she made the contract. At her feet, a shadowy creature with glowing red eyes replies that it should be the one thanking her. Returning to her sweet facade, Catherine smiles warmly at Isel. Taking Isel's hands, Catherine suggests they get ready for the trip together. In another room, Alicia checks on Diana, who has her back to her. Alicia's thoughts drift to Catherine with a look of concern. A flashback shows a distraught Catherine accusing Alicia of shutting her out and turning her back on her. Diana's voice calls out, "Allie," snapping Alicia from her thoughts with a jolt. Startled, Alicia responds as Diana asks how Catherine has been. Alicia reassures Diana that Catherine is fine, adding that she must be in perfect condition for the upcoming banquet. Realizing her slip, Alicia feigns ignorance about the banquet, and Diana admits she forgot to tell her. With a knowing smile, Diana confesses she intentionally kept it a secret and invites a stunned Alicia for tea. A transitional panel shows Alicia's unspoken hesitation in a single ah. Over tea, Alicia confirms that they are all going together to the Duke Iberg's estate. Diana internally notes that Catherine used to despise these kinds of social events. In a flashback, Diana recalls how a young Catherine had pleaded for Alicia to come along, not wanting her to be alone. Diana reflects with anger on her past self, who foolishly and blindly trusted everyone around her. Looking distressed, Alicia wonders why Catherine didn't tell her about the banquet. Her thoughts spiral as she suspects a deeper reason for the omission. Watching Diana sip tea, Alicia fumes, suspecting Catherine is now relying on Diana more than her. Diana directly asks if Alicia has been distant from Catherine lately, startling her into admitting it. The two women continue their tea conversation in a sun-drenched, elegant pavilion. Looking toward a rose garden, Diana casually dismisses Catherine's behavior as simple puberty. Diana takes a calm sip from her teacup, her expression unreadable. She then offers Alicia an invitation to the banquet, suggesting it could help ease the awkwardness with Catherine. Alicia's expression brightens with cunning as she enthusiastically accepts, seeing an opportunity to network with House Iberg. Alicia and Duchess Serena stand together, with the narration confirming that their current actions will greatly aid their plan. In a quiet moment, Diana smiles subtly as the scene fades into a leafy texture. On the morning of the banquet, a voice softly calls out Isel's name through the sunlit room. Diana gently wakes her daughter, Isel, who stirs from her sleep. A groggy Isel recognizes her mother, and Diana urges her to get ready quickly. During bath time, Isel playfully holds a puff of foam while Diana watches with a loving expression. Diana comments on the lovely scent of the rose petals floating in the bathwater. A narration explains that House Iberg is a prestigious ducal family known for running the empire's leading perfume brand. The family's brand, Maison Iberg, is displayed alongside an array of elegant perfume bottles. One particular product line was inspired by the Duchess's trip to the ocean during a time of emotional hardship. A hand holds a pink perfume bottle, which the narration reveals was secretly prepared for Isel. Diana wonders why they would use the Duchess's favorite scent instead of the young lord's. As her hand drifts through the water, she considers the customs of noble society. With an image of the Duchess in her mind, Diana realizes her first goal must be to win her over. Clenching her hand, Diana calls out Isel's name with quiet determination. After their bath, Diana and Isel share a serious look. Diana's expression is resolute as she contemplates her plan. Isel gazes up at her mother with understanding. Diana tenderly touches her daughter's cheek, affectionately calling her a smart girl. A promotional panel advertises the manhua and provides links to its website and Discord server. Catherine hums to herself, oblivious to the menacing shadow of Eclipse looming behind her. Eclipse calls out to Catherine, asking her what she thinks of Lord Sawyer. Gushing with adoration, Catherine describes Lord Sawyer as more handsome than flowers and brighter than the sun. She opens her closet, ready to select jewelry to go with the dress she's already chosen. She stops short, finding Alicia in her room holding a small bottle near her dress. A maid with light brown hair and purple eyes looks on in shock from the hallway. Catherine erupts in anger, demanding to know what Alicia is doing and shouting at her not to touch her belongings. Alicia calmly holds up a fancy purple perfume bottle, silencing Catherine's outburst. With her arms crossed, Catherine suspiciously asks her mother how she managed to get perfume. Alicia smiles, reminding Catherine of the day's importance and questioning if she ever doubted her ability to procure a simple gift. With 3 maids waiting, Alicia announces they will help Catherine get dressed as she takes her leave. As her mother walks away, Catherine is left holding the perfume, a look of uncertainty on her face. Alicia muses that after this gesture, Catherine will have no choice but to go along with her plan. Smiling with satisfaction, Alicia decides it's time for her to get ready as well. The maid Milan walks purposefully down a corridor. She stands at attention, a serious expression on her face. While sewing, Diana looks up as Milan approaches and asks, "Really?" In a memory, Diana smiles with approval, thinking, "As expected of you, Ali." The flashback shows Diana presenting a box of perfumes to Alicia, advising her that a memorable fragrance is key to meeting the Duchess. Diana opens the box, offering Alicia her choice of the scents inside. Alicia smiles graciously, thanking Her Highness for her continued kindness. She spritzes the purple perfume, admiring its refined and profound fragrance. Holding the bottle, Alicia thinks that any perfume from Diana is sure to be fashionable among the nobles. Diana's approving thought, "As expected of you, Ali," echoes again. In another scene, Diana explains to a silver-haired man that she was just helping the children. Now dressed in a lavender gown, Catherine holds the perfume, thinking that wearing it to win the Duchess's favor will surely please Athrun. Milan covers her mouth, unable to contain her gleeful laughter. An excited Milan stands beside a smiling Diana, both pleased with their scheme. A view of the sun-drenched estate is accompanied by the thought, "I'm looking forward to the party." Calypso adjusts his brooch, his expression stern as he asks if someone has forgotten something. Diana advises someone not to return having only gossiped, and an off-screen voice agrees. A young blonde girl with flowing hair runs forward, calling for her mother and father. Amidst a cascade of flowers, a woman's voice calls out, "Isel," and compliments her, saying she is as lovely as a bird. Standing with her mother and the silver-haired man, Isel shyly thanks the unseen speaker. Diana turns to the silver-haired man with a radiant smile as he looks on in silence. He looks down at her with a soft expression, telling her she is truly beautiful. As a woman in a purple gown approaches, Isel turns to address her mother and father. An unseen voice expresses surprise, asking if Catherine is there. Catherine is revealed, dressed in an elegant lavender gown with black ribbons. With a determined smile, Catherine declares she wants to meet the young lord at once, while Isel looks on unhappily. Diana gently holds Isel's hand and tells Catherine to wait a moment. The silver-haired man and Catherine stand together, a somber mood between them. He explains that someone else has yet to arrive, much to Catherine's confusion. Alicia appears in a vibrant purple and green dress, smiling as she thanks them for calling her. Outraged, Catherine demands to know why the doctor is being brought along. She fumes internally, criticizing Alicia's ridiculous outfit and tactless intrusion. Calypso states that Alicia lacks an invitation, but Diana questions him, prompting him to muse that their past bond must have cooled over a simple dress. Diana takes Alicia's hand, happily remarking that their outing will be fun, and a nervous Alicia agrees. With a fierce glare, Alicia internally questions why she has to say such things, thinking no one would actually want to wear her garish dress. In a flashback, Alicia asks Diana to borrow a dress, but Diana curtly dismisses her, claiming to be busy with the children. Holding the vibrant dress, Alicia notes it is the most splendid of the remaining options, while Calypso lets out a weary sigh. Calypso reluctantly agrees to his lady's wishes, and Diana pulls Alicia along as he urges them to hurry. The elegant legs of a white horse and the ornate details of a carriage come into view. The grand, gold-trimmed carriage stands ready for their journey. At a lavish party, a dark-haired woman in a green gown thanks her guests for coming. The woman in the green gown looks on with a confident and knowing expression. Her gaze falls upon Calypso, Diana, and Isel as they arrive at the party. The woman smiles warmly at Diana, saying her presence makes the party shine even brighter. She then formally greets Calypso, acknowledging that it has been a long time. The woman thanks her guests once more before pausing, her attention caught by something unexpected. Noticing Isel for the first time, she remarks that there is a lady present, whom she has never seen before. Diana introduces Isel as her adopted daughter from the Marquisate of Pereste, explaining that they took her in after she lost her parents. The woman in green looks on with sharp interest, intrigued by the news. Leaning closer to Isel, she compliments her fine fragrance, noting that it is a blend she treasures. Isel smiles sweetly and thanks her, explaining that the perfume was a gift from her grandfather. Catherine rushes past Isel, eagerly calling out to the Duchess. Approaching the Duchess, Catherine asks how she has been, but the Duchess immediately recognizes Catherine's scent as violet amber. The Duchess internally scoffs, thinking the fragrance is too seductive and cheap, like something a commoner would wear. Catherine moves eagerly towards the Duchess, calling out her title. Seated between the two girls, the Duchess wonders why the sisters wear different perfumes, noting the House of Pereste wouldn't treat them differently. She concludes Catherine must have chosen her own scent, and pointedly compliments Isel's lovely fragrance instead. Catherine proudly claims she prepared her scent especially for the party, while the Duchess privately laments the vast difference in the young lady's taste. The Duchess resolves to keep a close eye on Lady Isel. A woman with her face obscured calls out to young Lord Sawyer, who stands with his father. The Duchess instructs Sawyer to greet the honored guests from the ducal house of Ernest. Sawyer approaches the group and formally introduces himself as Sawyer of the House of Aberg. With a graceful curtsy, Isel introduces herself as the eldest daughter of the ducal house of Ernest. Sawyer is immediately captivated by Isel's beauty, telling her it is a pleasure to meet her. Catherine quickly interjects, offering Sawyer congratulations on his birthday. The Duchess observes the interaction with a smile, then asks Sawyer to show the ladies around the estate. As Isel looks on, a delighted Catherine clasps her hands, thinking fondly of the young master. Sawyer de Iberg, a handsome young man with dark hair, gestures gracefully and welcomes the ladies. Leading them through the grand reception hall, Sawyer explains it is where they greet guests and that his mother personally arranges the flowers. He continues the tour into a library, suggesting they might find the collection of Renaissance art and perfumery studies fascinating. They arrive at another room where Sawyer points out the orchestra rehearsing for that evening's event. After Catherine asks to listen, Sawyer kindly grants her permission to stay as long as she wishes. While walking down a long, ornate hallway, Catherine turns and calls out to her sister, Isel. Feigning concern, Catherine notes this is Isel's first party and suggests she should rest instead, causing Isel to realize she's scheming again. With quiet resolve, Isel agrees to the suggestion, telling Catherine to go on without her. Catherine smirks triumphantly, calling Isel's choice a wise one and bidding her farewell. The demon Eclipse internally berates Catherine for being a fool and urges her to see Sawyer's expression, causing her to turn in surprise. A close-up reveals Sawyer's troubled and slightly sweating face as he looks away uncomfortably. Elsewhere at the party, Diana is greeted warmly by guests who are happy to see her and ask if she is feeling well. While having tea, Diana reassures the other ladies, including Duchess Serena and Alicia, that she is fine, as one guest expresses joy at seeing the children grow. When one of the ladies asks about the woman accompanying Diana, Alicia cheekily asks if she truly doesn't know. Alicia gracefully holds a flower to her chest. With a confident smile, Alicia introduces herself by her full name and title, Baroness Alicia LeBlair. Duchess Serena acknowledges the fatigue that comes with perfumery and offers acupuncture, but Alicia politely insists she is well. Duchess Serena observes Alicia shrewdly, remarking that she seems more accustomed to the smell of antiseptic than perfume. Two noblewomen gossip nearby, cattily remarking how fortunate Diana was to bring an uninvited baroness. A bead of sweat drips down Alicia's face as she becomes flustered and angry at the insult. Diana smoothly defends Alicia, implying that her presence is as essential as that of a houseguard. Alicia clenches her fist, internally seething with disappointment that Diana's defense wasn't as strong as it used to be. A voice calls out, "Mother," and Diana's sharp, focused gaze turns toward the sound. As Catherine arrives, Diana calmly acknowledges her presence. Eclipse's voice again urges a panicked Catherine to look at Sawyer's expression as a maid formally announces her arrival. A maid interrupts Catherine, Isel, and Sawyer, announcing that the Archduchess Diana urgently requests her presence. Catherine approaches her mother, asking why she was summoned and internally fuming about the interruption at such a crucial moment. Diana calmly asks about Isel's well-being, feigning concern that she might not be adjusting to her first party. Stunned to be called away for such a minor reason, Catherine forces a smile and reports that Isel is adjusting well. Satisfied with the answer, Diana dismisses Catherine, telling her she may go. As Catherine turns to leave, she and a simmering Alicia exchange a tense, silent look across the room. Alicia bites her lip, her expression filled with frustration and resentment. Walking away, Catherine scoffs internally at Alicia's behavior, noting that she hasn't even bothered to socialize with the other ladies. The demon's voice goads Catherine, warning her that Isel is alone with Sawyer and planting seeds of doubt about what they might be discussing. Gripped by jealous fury, Catherine runs back toward the party, determined not to allow Isel any time alone with Sawyer. On a sunlit balcony, Isel quietly confirms something in her conversation with Sawyer. Isel confesses that she came to the Ernst family seeking a parent's love, something her beloved grandfather couldn't provide. Her eyes well with tears as she finishes her thought, emphasizing that her grandfather is not her parent. Sawyer gently tries to smooth things over, suggesting that Catherine meant no harm by mentioning her adoption. Isel looks determined, acknowledging her troubles, but stating her belief that she simply needs to try harder to fit in. Sawyer apologizes for his invasive question, but Isel gracefully offers him a handkerchief, saying it's fine. He looks at her with a gentle expression as she wonders aloud if he experiences similar questions. Sawyer explains his own family situation, revealing his father divorced his first wife before marrying his current mother. A bitter memory surfaces of his half-sister with peachy pink hair, who coldly declared she never saw him as a sibling, and that only she, the legitimate heir, matters. His sister's cutting words, "You are a fraud," echo in his mind, as he reflects that she too must have things she cannot speak of. Back in the present, Isel boldly asks Sawyer if she may address him by his name. As Sawyer smiles warmly at her, Isel recognizes his admirable qualities and prestige, finally understanding Catherine's attachment to him. She shrewdly realizes that forming a connection with him could be useful for her future. With this thought in mind, Isel beams with a dazzling, joyful smile,